Nick.
Hey, Tys.
How are we?
I'm good. We're good. I'm very good.
Excellent.
How are you?
Do you know what? It's episode 92.
92.
I'm feeling
Jesus
good.
Christ. Okay,
We're
good.
8 from a 100.
We're 8 from 100.
I did some maths earlier.
Hey, there you go.
We're very excited
I like it.
to be here today. We've got a very, very special episode today. We are talking about one of the all-time great films from
if not one of the
our
greatest
childhood.
in some people's opinions.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
We're talking about Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Before we get stuck into any of that, though, Nick, why don't
Yeah.
you tell the people at home where they can find our show?
Well, thanks for joining us, gang. If you are listening to us on any podcast platform, of course, please like, subscribe, share, do all of the above. We would love you for it.
We would.
But other than that, we are on every other social media platform, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're also on YouTube. And if you would like to write us some correspondence, we are at Tys and Videotape at gmail.com.
Nice. It sounded like you were trying to get that all out in one breath.
Was that good?
And it was a bit kind of like...
I did well.
No, very good. Very
Yeah.
good, Nick. That's probably
Yeah.
your fastest
That was probably the
retelling of
quickest,
that. Efficient. Very efficient.
Thank
I
you.
liked it very much.
Yep.
But for today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest.
We are.
We're joined by the host and creator of the Real Chat podcast. We're here with Adam Stolfo. Adam, how you going?
Adam,
Really, really good, fellas. How you doing?
Yeah, very well. Thank you for joining us here at NT&V headquarters.
Oh, I like it.
So wait, we've got Nick and we've got Tys. Where's the videotape?
They're behind us.
You know?
Actually, yeah, I was about to say. On the walls.
On the walls.
On the
Yeah.
walls.
Yeah.
Yes. No, go. Thank you so much for having me.
No,
guys.
thank you for coming along. You are a self-confessed PhD of Back to the Future.
That is
so,
entirely true. Yes,
you're probably the most qualified person to talk about it that we know.
I don't know. It sounds like Nick over here is pretty well versed in this series as well.
We've had our fair share of Back to the
Absolutely.
Future watching, no
Oh,
doubt.
yeah.
Look,
no
you guys
doubt.
are movie fans, and anyone who is serious about the medium of film loves Back to the Future.
Yeah.
In fact, let me ask you guys this:
Ooh.
have you met anyone in your lifetime who doesn't like Back to the Future?
I couldn't tell you. I know people that don't like 2 and 3,
Yeah, and they're idiots.
and and I disagree with them in a civil manner.
And I flat out say that you're not coming to my pool party. You're not invited.
Yes.
You're
no,
right,
I
though.
haven't.
No.
I haven't actually. Good question. No.
And even if they did, would you believe them? That's the other thing as well. You know
They
what
could
I'm
just
saying?
be contrarians, just for the sake of it,
That's true.
to go against the tide.
But if they did say that they don't like it, I would have to delve into why. It would be a long debate about why.
And you
don't
couldn't
like
be
this
friends
film.
with them either. So
No,
you
no,
know,
of course not.
So
No, it's a pretty
Sorry
quick
about
elimination, I think.
Yeah,
It's
thank you. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those personality tests.
Yeah.
You find out if you're going to be friends with somebody in the
Yeah.
long run.
Yeah.
Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Real Chat podcast, man? You've got a great kind of, what do you call it, series happening at the moment where you're looking at the Empire Magazine's
Yes.
top 100 films. How's that going?
yes, working in conjunction with Empire Magazine. We asked
Wonderful.
permission for this.
Oh, great.
Oh, wow.
But once they realised that our podcast had no money coming through it or little money, they pretty much just said, "Oh, you want to use that?
Yeah,
piss
just go
off.
for it. Yeah.
go do what you want with it. We don't care."
Excellent.
So we did the right thing. We we asked their permission. But look, Real Chat started, guys, way back in the start of 2015 or the end of 2014.
Yeah, right.
And I started it with a friend of mine, Bruce, and we did 60 episodes together. And Bruce has now gone off and done his own show.
Yeah, cool.
And I held on to the Real Chat brand.
Sure.
And put a new team together, or some of the guys from the old team are still part of it now. Some of them since episode 1, which has been really good. And look, where did the idea come from? It was definitely inspired by other movie podcasts,
Yeah, sure.
or other pop culture podcasts. I think it was just something that, how did you guys start? It was from a love of movies and a wanting to sort of share that opinion, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So-
100%. And very similar. We had the kind of movie podcasts that we would listen to, and I enjoyed certain aspects of them, and I was like, hey, I think we can do something
And
like this.
not just a review of movies, kind of a deep dive, which is what Real Chat does as well. Which
We
is
go
why I
deep.
love it. Yeah,
We
which
go
is
real
really
deep.
good. Which is really good.
I think it's
Yeah.
the best way to do it, because you can, if you want a review of a movie, you can go online and you can have a read of one,
Exactly.
and that's your 5 to 10 minutes read. That's great. If you really want to have a good solid chat, we consider it kind of like the conversation we would have anyway if we both saw a movie together and then met up at a party or something.
Yeah.
This is
Oh,
the
have you seen
conversation.
this?
Yeah,
Is
this
it
is the
amazing?
conversation we would have.
And of course, Real Chat as well, so people can actually find us as well, Tys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Real Chat is with 2 E's. Too,
It is.
two
You're
E's.
right.
Yeah, it's
real
nice-
as in the film,
reel.
real.
Yeah, no, real clever there, but
That's all right. Well, we're loosely
Oh,
rhyming
that's
with a
well done.
very a little
That's
known
true.
Soderbergh movie that
That's true.
from the late
little
80s.
known Soderbergh.
Well,
movie.
to this generation, I would say so.
Yeah.
you're probably
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
To cinephiles, everyone knows Sex, Lies and Videotape. but
Absolutely.
yeah,
Have you guys actually done that film on your show?
We
Or-
haven't.
We have
no,
not. We
no.
have not.
It'll be
Episode
in
100
works.
maybe, or
No, that's
No,
not.
not
We're not wasting
100,
that. Not a chance.
No way.
So is it? We can find it your podcast in just all the normal places you can find podcasts. Anywhere in particular you'd like your listeners to find you?
Look, myself and my wife, who's a designer, did a lot of work on the Real Chat website. And that's always a good place to start.
Yeah, great.
Which is simply realchat.com.au for everybody. Nice and easy to find. We're of course on all main podcast channels.
Wonderful.
What is it? iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn.
All that.
I think I'm even on radio. What's it called?
Radio Public.
Radio Public now.
Oh,
nice. Making that
small coin. Sweet coin.
Sweet coin. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And of course, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are our main social media platforms as well.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So tell us, man, have you had what's been your favourite episode, or that you've done close to 100 now? Do you have a favourite? Do you have something that you really love talking about?
I think there are some standout episodes of Real Chat, and they're quite long as well. I think that might be why they're standout episodes.
That's the way to do it, man.
But I think the ones that jump to mind, because we're coming up to 100 episodes now. We've done 95, nearly 96, which is 96 coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, great.
Probably not when this drops, but
it'll be pretty close. This will drop on. This will drop on Friday. So you'll be able to listen to your most recent episode,
which is Top Gun. Just so people know,
Top Gun made it to the top 100.
No.
Okay, that's.
He was shocked for a minute there.
I did panic for a second.
Hey, come on! There's nothing wrong with Top Gun. Come on,
but
I prefer Days of Thunder. But come on,
yeah. Risky business. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like it.
We are doing a few spin-off episodes.
Cool.
So Top Gun is part of our first spin-off, which is what we're referring to as the WTF films,
right?
Or What the Films?
What the Films?
Movies that have been omited from the top 100 list, which you sort of like. It really should be there.
Okay.
And whatever your personal feelings are on a film like Top Gun, let's be honest, it probably should be in a list like this Empire list. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Tony Scott doing what Tony Scott does. If you want an example of 80s Tony Scott filmmaking.
Wasn't it the catalyst to the stratosphere of Tom Cruise? Wasn't that the one?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely it was.
It was huge after that. It was
definitely.
massive,
I would say, Tys, getting back to your question, the original Star Wars: A New Hope.
Cool.
Which is a very early episode of Real Chat, but that would be the first one to listen to.
Sure.
Back to the Future. Who would have thought?
Of course, you have an episode of Back to the Future.
That was definitely a highlight. And more recently as well, we've had a lot of good positive feedback on our Predator episode.
Wicked.
Nice.
Which is a great film.
So Predator was in the top 100?
It was.
Excellent.
Well deserved.
Excellent. Very well deserved.
Absolutely.
And more recently as well, Mulholland Drive.
Oh, wow.
And Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Yep.
Okay.
Very, very good feedback on our discussion on those films.
Nice.
So,
how much of your Mulholland Drive episode was just trying to figure out what the fuck happened?
Well, we actually had a real big Lynch fan as a a special guest on that episode.
Right, yeah.
Someone who's interviewed him before as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and interviewed the cast members of Mulholland Drive and Lynch movies as well. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And so we actually we created a new segment and actually gave him an opportunity to decode Mulholland Drive.
Oh, yeah, right.
And it was the best description that I've heard yet. Awesome. So if people are interested, check out our episode.
Tune in to Mulholland Drive. My favourite memory of Mulholland Drive was, remember at the video store, you got it in whether it was the DVD or
it
the
was on the back of the DVD slip.
Yeah, all the
list
clues.
of clues.
How good was that? And most of the people that I've asked about Mulholland Drive had no clue about those clues.
Oh, really?
Nothing.
Red herrings.
Red herrings. Nice.
See, that's just...
We actually discussed this on the episode.
Golden. Yeah.
We do talk about
you
it
went
because
deep dive into
Lynch is trying to. I mean, I think some of them do make sense when you look at them in context.
Yeah.
This was all explained to me by our expert.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome.
So I think you'll find a number of them are trying to throw you off track.
I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty nice though.
Yeah.
Very Lynch.
That's
very
great.
Lynch.
Yeah. I still haven't seen. Twin Peaks. That's how much I suck as a Lynch fan. Then again, I've only seen 2. So,
but you probably saw Inland Empire and never went back. So,
I have never bothered with
it. It is an awful movie.
I'm going to be honest.
If you haven't seen it, don't waste your life.
Don't waste it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good 3 hours. So it's,
man, it's a slog.
That is a slog and a half of kind of average digital photography.
But everyone loves Twin Peaks. I haven't heard anyone dislike Twin Peaks at all. Yeah,
for sure. All right, well, that's going to lead us nicely. It's not a segue at all because they're not related in any way, shape, or form. But that's going to lead us into our first usual segment. Shall we discuss some trailers?
Oh, some trailers.
Definitely.
Sure.
Everybody's talking
trailers. Very good.
Nice.
Excellent. So we're just going to talk the one trailer today. We just gathered around Nick's large television, and we watched the trailer for the new Danny Boy. Danny Boy.
Go again. Danny, try
Danny
again.
Boy. The new Danny Boyle film, Yesterday.
This was my last gig. If it hasn't happened by now, it's like a miracle.
Miracles happen.
What happened?
Electricity flicked off all over the world.
Cheese!
Yesterday,
Ellie bought you a present.
all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
When did you write that?
I didn't write it. Paul McCartney wrote it. The Beatles.
Who?
John, Paul, George and Ringo, the Beatles. No. Stop it. Yesterday. It's one of the greatest songs ever written.
Well, it's not Coldplay. It's not Fix You.
Do you genuinely not know who the Beatles are?
Genuinely.
Then I'm in a really, really, really complicated situation. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me.
Sorry, I'm just listening to Jack's new song.
What's this one called?
Leave It Be.
Let it be.
Well, rock on, Jack.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you something.
Hi, we should talk. See, we pay and you write songs and then you make a ton of money. And then we take most of it.
Gentlemen, what did we think?
Wow, well, first of all, just after finishing watching the trailer, we haven't actually seen a Danny Boyle film for quite a long time. His last film was Trainspotting 2. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
neither have
I was racking my brain. I went all the way back to Sunshine, guys.
Oh, wow.
What was
Really?
that, 2007?
I was
or-
going to say 127 hours.
Really?
Yes.
That was the one that I
Sorry.
thought maybe would have been the last one.
I definitely,
you've seen?
and I've seen that too, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen Steve Jobs.
Oh, I love Jobs. I thought it was great. It was such a different film. Like, it was such a...
To the Ashton Kutcher one.
Yeah,
Is
no.
that-
I've seen that one.
Look, I'm gonna
How have
watch
you
it.
seen that one?
I know.
but not Academy Award winning
Yeah, exactly.
Danny Boyle. No,
Definitely something to do with the wife, Tys.
Oh,
excellent.
right.
An
Look,
Ashton
it
Kutcher
happens.
fan. I don't know. I don't know.
that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. We do things for our partners.
That's
I
it.
have,
They get to
I have,
choose movies too.
Exactly. I've seen Zoolander 2. Thank you, Sam.
Ah, Zoolander
Fantastic.
2.
Jesus Christ. It was a slog, I'm telling you.
Yeah, so Danny Boyle, he's made some stuff, but we haven't been around for a little while. But this kind of came as a bit of a surprise to all of us. We
Wasn't on any cards,
totally
wasn't-
skipped over it on our most anticipated episode. We didn't
Yeah.
talk about it at all.
No.
I don't even know if it came up as an option, like as a
No, I don't remember
on the
it being
list
there,
on the release date.
Because I would have seen Danny Boyle's name and gone, okay,
Yeah.
so what's going on here? Because Danny Boyle is kind of a director that you can expect a particular film from him. If
Oh,
you're
yeah,
going in,
absolutely.
you're like, oh, this is going to be quality at least.
His name is like a brand, isn't it? You know what I mean? A lot of filmmakers have a brand. You know sort of what you're getting yourself into.
Exactly.
Like, when we all go and see Avatar 2, we know what we're getting ourselves into. It's a James Cameron film.
seeing
You know what I'm
that
saying? Is that right? Is
I'm
that
not
right?
seeing that.
You're not seeing
No,
Avatar 2?
no, you've got to see it. You've got to see
Oh,
it.
god damn. Okay, fine, I'll see it. But I didn't want to. Like, I'm not. I feel that James Cameron is wasting his talent. This is my opinion.
Have you seen Alita, Battle Angel? Have you
No,
seen
not
that?
yet.
No, neither have
No.
I. But it was going to be a
It
James
was,
Cameron
yeah.
film for a long time there. Yeah, my understanding is it doesn't have his flavour.
Right.
You know, so
Okay.
it's probably not going to, make... What does that mean? It's not going to make billions of dollars.
Exactly, it's not going to be the third highest grossing film of all
yeah,
time.
exactly.
That's right.
But I can't go to see that. Like, I saw Avatar only because of the 3D element, like we all did.
Which
but as
was
far as-
mind-boggling at the time.
It was.
Yeah.
But as far as the film goes itself, do you actually like the film Avatar?
Avatar is interesting because Avatar has left no legacy.
No cultural
Exactly.
impact
No
whatsoever.
And I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Have you guys discussed this on your show?
We have.
No,
No, we have. We actually
really?
have talked
Yeah.
about this.
Oh, we
the
have,
fact
yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
like it is the you can't think of any other film that has made that much money. Is the most
Highest.
highest grossing earner of all time.
Yep.
zero cultural impact.
Yeah, I think it's a very solid 3 or 3.5 star film, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
I'm probably with you there. Yeah.
But it's not at a level what a lot of other James Cameron's earlier work would reach, for example.
It's
you know
probably
what I mean?
my least favourite, although I've never seen Piranha 2.
I have. Amazing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
For real?
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was obviously his
obviously
first
a Piranha film.
You know.
But you know, you also know he didn't direct the whole movie.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know that, and you know that going in. So you're watching it going, this is just a B grade, or a C grade schlock horror film, you know, and it's great.
As long as you had fun, Nick.
Hey, I had more fun in that than I did with Avatar. Okay.
And you were out of there probably an hour and a half quicker too.
Exactly.
So it's good for everybody.
But Danny Boyle, his name comes with his name is a brand. You know what I mean?
100%.
And I think that goes all the way back to the days of the original Trainspotting, 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Did you guys see 28 Weeks Later as well?
Did.
I did not.
It wasn't a horrible sequel.
It was okay.
Wasn't
It was
him.
passable.
It
No, it wasn't him.
But it actually was a pretty good follow up to
was
what was
not
a very
bad.
very good. What was it? What would you classify that? It was a horror film. Wasn't it?
It was a horror film.
Yeah.
It was the start of the running zombie. So that was he started that. So it was 28 Days Later and the running zombie. So that started from there and went into Dawn of the Dead, which we've done. But yeah, from there it was I didn't mind it. It was good. I didn't mind 28 Weeks Later.
Yeah.
How do we define the Danny Boyle aesthetic then? Is there something where you can put your hands on and say, oh, that's what he does, or is it unquantifiable and you just know it when you see it?
The latter.
I'm gonna go with the latter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think you can pick his movies.
You can, because if you look at Slumdog and if you look at
127 hours.
127 Hours, there is some similar features, whether it be the cinematographer or things like that, the people that he uses to make his films have a particular
I think
look.
he generally does use the same people.
Yeah.
As far as I know. I could just be spouting shit, but...
yeah.
This probably, aside from that Millions movie, which I never saw,
No, neither do I.
I can't think of him going full kind of feel good ever.
Which this film looks like.
Yeah, it looks like a real quality, old school feel good British comedy, like early 2000s kind of vibe I'm getting from it.
But I understand what you're saying as well about that. Even in the trailer, you can tell it's a Danny Boyle movie.
Yeah, it's just got this energy to it.
I haven't really tried to decipher it before, but it'd be something maybe worth looking into.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
What is it about his movies that have this particular flavour? Yeah,
I think it's a good pairing too. The Richard Curtis, Danny Boyle thing.
Yeah,
because I like Richard Curtis a lot more as a writer than I do as a director. So I think I'm interested to see him away from that.
Yeah.
Because he's only the couple of things that he's directed. I think I genuinely don't like.
Richard Curtis. Well, you watched one recently, didn't you, Tyson? Did you?
Is that directed by Richard Curtis? I thought it was just written by him.
Oh, it's just written by him?
We might talk about that later.
Okay, cool.
Teaser.
Did anyone see Trance? No one saw that?
No.
That was his one before, which was, it was poxy.
Was it?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah,
okay.
It wasn't great.
But he's got
at
the
all.
credits in the bank,
But he does. Exactly. Yeah. I think it was something that he wanted to come... Maybe it was something in the back of his mind that he'd always wanted to do, but it didn't make any money and it was not that great. But yeah.
To the point where I actually haven't heard of it. You know what I mean?
Really?
So,
yeah. So
it must be
Rosario
saying something.
Dawson is... it's about painting or stealing a painting. See,
He just wrote that, didn't he? I don't think he didn't direct that.
No, he directed it.
What?
Trance, yeah.
I'm looking at something else then.
Oh.
What am I looking at?
Yeah, James McAvoy, Vincent Cassel, Rosario Dawson. Yeah. But this looks really good, Tys.
It looks
It looks really good.
It looks good. I mean, do you guys want me to... I mean, this is your trailer segment that you do on every episode. Do you guys want me to give you a little bit of, how I approach trailers? And,
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was interested in hearing some of your backlog, because now I'm a fan of you guys all of a sudden, since discovering you guys,
Awesome.
right on my level. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You do this on every episode.
We do.
I'm always sitting there not knowing what you're talking about, and you want to know why?
Oh.
Because I actually don't watch theatrical trailers that much. I would love... when I go to the cinema, right, I would love to know when they finish, right? And I'll tell you why. If I plan to see a movie, I don't really need to have it shown to me beforehand. And I've had so many movies spoilt by the theatrical trailer as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
However...
I like him.
Right? There's just something about... I've been disappointed and I've had movies spoilt by movie trailers before,
Absolutely.
right? They're a marketing tool designed to get people into the cinema. Mm-hmm. I've had a lot more fun with the honest trailers sometimes as well. Have you seen honest trailers?
Yeah, they're very funny.
Some of them are average, but some of them are very clever as well.
Yeah.
I am an advocate, guys, for the theatrical teaser trailer.
Right. Right.
We've talked about this.
Yeah. I'm a big fan.
I assume you guys have seen the new you've heard about the new Ghostbusters film.
Yes.
Have you discussed that on your show?
We haven't, no, because we don't tend to do, if it is something like that, a 30-second kind of almost like an announcement, we don't tend to talk about it as much because there's less
to talk about
content in it.
Yeah.
So,
which is why
you love it,
of
course.
Right? This all started all the way back in the days of Terminator 2, guys. Right. Have you guys seen the teaser trailer for Terminator 2?
That's 100%. I actually saw it today on Twitter. No. Someone posted it and retweeted it on Twitter as saying that it was one of the best trailers of all time.
It's the production line one, isn't it?
Production line, yeah.
Right? Directed by the late great Stan Winston.
Directed by Stan. That's awesome.
Who was given a sizable budget by probably... was it Kuroko or whoever was the big...
Wasn't it Ryan?
The long...
Kuroko, what a classic.
They're gone as well.
Sign of the 80s.
Totally.
That thing, that little metallic C that would come up.
Total Recall, T2, it's all there. The teaser trailer for Terminator 2 is my favourite trailer of all time.
Amazing.
Well, it doesn't tell you anything other than the fact that the Terminator is returning, right?
Yep.
And they even tell a little story about how Arnold is going to be able to return. The fact that there's an endoskeleton being put into the machine, and out comes the man himself and says simply, "I'll be back." Well, the title comes up and the voiceover says, "I'll be back." The greatest theatrical teaser trailer still to this day, I think. Right. So I'm an advocate for the trailers that are designed to get you in the know that a movie is coming, but doesn't spoil anything.
Yeah.
Right. So you would have loved that Ghostbusters trailer then?
Well,
because I didn't mind it.
It was kind of fun.
It was kind of fun.
It's fun. It's fun. My actual feelings about another Ghostbusters film is very I just don't know what to think.
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys probably don't want to go into that yet, but which is fair enough too.
It's a can of worms if there ever was one.
Yeah. But just one question quickly, Tys.
Yeah, man.
Is this the first film franchise ever in which a son is taking the reins of his father's franchise?
Which one what are we talking about now?
Ghostbusters.
Oh, of course. Oh God!
You guys obviously heard that Jason Reitman is
directing.
Is this a first? That's what I want. That's what I want to know about this.
I'm trying to think.
Right.
If
the first time a son is
taking over the reins
of his dad's franchise.
It might not have happened, but didn't Max Landis write something that John Landis?
Really?
Maybe.
I have no idea.
Or maybe it was rumored that he would, and it never came to be.
Eventuated.
Yeah.
Doing like what?
Like I can't remember.
American Werewolf? Or
a remake, maybe? I don't know. But that's interesting.
That's a good question.
Because that just sort of tells you something about my mindset. That's what my mind went to when this Ghostbusters film was announced, and I heard that he was doing it. Well, everyone else was speculating about, who's going to be in it? What's it going to be about? It better not be linked to that reboot and stuff.
Your mind just went to the history of all fathers and sons?
That's just the way I think sometimes.
That's
I think.
That's amazing. I love that. But no. And in saying what you said about theatrical trailers, I'm a big fan only of... I agree because I think we are oversaturated completely. By the time the film actually comes out, not only is there a second, third and fourth trailer, but you're getting featurettes, you're getting all of these things before the movie comes out, which absolutely spoils the fun for me.
But sometimes
there's my opinion,
plot points are spoiled as well.
Exactly. And like the end of my favourite one was, I didn't watch it, and then when I watched the movie, I went back and saw it, was Iron Man 3. You didn't know that all the Iron Men rocked up. In that third trailer, they showed that money shot when all the Iron Men rocked up at the end. Come on, that's a massive spoiler. Huge. So I was so happy that I didn't see that. So when you see it in the cinema for the first time, you're legitimately blown away, rather than I saw this the other day.
Yeah, when I say that, it makes it sound like I don't watch them at all. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, and I get it, and I understand why you guys are so into them as well, because they are designed to get you hyped about a film, and when you like a trailer as well, you just can't wait to see it. But I just sort of figure that if I don't watch them in advance. I mean, obviously at the cinema you can't avoid it all the time. You know what I mean? And it's not like I stick my fingers in my ears and shut my eyes.
I've done that.
Yeah, I know.
I've done that. Yeah,
like something popped up.
If something pops up, and seriously, and if I haven't seen that, because they'll show the third trailer, right? I literally put my fingers in my ears and drop my head into my wife's lap, and I don't hear a thing. And my wife has to look around at everyone else, going, "Sorry,
it's fine.
He's feeling ill."
It's just what he does.
Pat me on the back. Yeah.
But yeah. So this trailer, this one, it looked really good.
It did look great. It's.
I'm a big fan already.
I'm a big fan already. I think it's doing some... it's an idea that is so simple that I'm almost cursing that I didn't think of it myself.
Yeah,
imagine waking up one day and the greatest music of all time doesn't exist, except in your own head. Like, what a great
But the fact
concept
that
for a
not
film.
only that, but you know and can sing.
Yeah, exactly.
Every Beatles song.
Definitely.
And I think it's going to say a lot about the state of music at the moment. In the sense that I think we're living in a time where you can't just be an exceptionally talented human being.
Yeah.
Like, that time has gone. That was the 70s and 60s and 70s. You could be a really strong singer-songwriter and look like a bag of potatoes. And you would still be successful. I just don't think that's ever going to be the case anymore.
Well, it was an era, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, 100%.
I'm going to add the 80s to that.
Yeah, look,
60s,
I think
70s, 80s.
Yeah, 80s. It's
you got some. It was less.
Yeah.
There were less.
It was
artists
starting
that were like
to
that,
progress
but
around that time.
I mean, it's saying something that all the major artists are still having returning tours like to this day. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
And they're still the biggest money drawers, surely.
Oh, probably.
You
yeah.
know, like, I mean, who came recently? Phil Collins came recently.
Oh, yeah.
And,
He did
You
come
know, Paul McCartney was here. Was it last year? Or,
Yeah, and there's not many acts from, let's say, the 90s and 2000s that are like if Goo Goo Dolls just announced a world tour, they're not playing Rod Laver Arena. You know what I mean? Like,
no, they're doing a small festival with Alanis and
Alanis, I
and
do love
I can't think of anyone else. I don't know.
Come on, obscure 90s act. What do you got?
Jesus Christ,
you got
I've got
something
nothing.
good? Everclear.
Ugly Kid Joe.
Ugly Kid Joe. It's just 3 hours of Cats in the Cradle.
Cats in the Cradle, which was not their song.
So I think it's kind of interesting that it might tap into a little bit of that idea that, you know, he seems like just a simple, humble kind of guy who maybe is a bit out of his depth on a large scale. He doesn't have that showmanship and that kind of almost like unwarranted confidence that I think you need to have these days to be a successful artist. But he just has the greatest songs. And what could you do if you just have the greatest songs of all time?
But you can see the guilt in him already.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Even in the trailer, and there would be that guilt. Oh my God. It looks
100%.
So good. Looks so good.
Well,
definitely going to see it.
I'm definitely going to see it. I think it's shot straight to the top of my anticipated list when I saw that trailer.
Yep.
I've already had really good discussions with a bunch of different people about it.
Nice.
Like a songwriter friend of mine who listens to the show. Hey Liam, what's up? Shout out. And he had a big discussion about how it's, you know, how it compares to his own songwriting process and how, you know, he feels like that the songs kind of make themselves aware to him as opposed to like he has to wait for it to almost be ready to kind of come out as opposed to sitting down and writing and discovering songs that way. And so what would it be like if they were all just there ready to go? Like how do you kind of make peace with that as an artist and stuff like that? I just think it's going to, for a simple idea, I think it's got a heap of meat in it, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end, because you know something's going to
something's going
to go. Like, you know, it's going to turn, either people are going to find out that the Beatles existed and then he's exposed as a fraud, or I don't know what else, but something has to happen because it's a movie. Yeah. And so I'm really interested to see where they take it. I think there's some real cool opportunities in this.
Definitely.
He lives on, and then oh no, I'm not going to say that. He gets shot by a fat guy.
Oh, by Jared Leto in a fat suit. Very good.
Yes.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say about that one?
No, that was good.
Great. Well, I think it's time we move on to our feature presentation.
Amazing. Bring it on.
And now for our feature presentation.
Steven Spielberg presents Back to the Future, a Robert Zemeckis film. Marty leads an ordinary life.
No McFly ever amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley.
Yeah, well, history is going to change.
And 1985 is not his year. But Dr. Brown is about to change all that.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
He's sending Marty 30 years back in time.
It's a flying saucer from outer space!
Now, he's trapped in the past.
It's gotta be a dream.
About to meet
chocolate.
His future father.
He's a baby tough. Wow!
And he's making an impression on his mother.
He's an absolute dream. And he can sleep in my room.
Anything you do could have serious repercussions on future events.
Now, he's got to make his mother and father fall in love.
That's right out loud. I haven't even been born yet.
And only Dr. Brown can help him get back to the future.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Precisely.
Michael J. Fox.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Christopher Lloyd.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Back to the future.
what's that? My favorite little pice of music, that the little thing that pops up all the time.
So good. So when was the last time we all saw this?
Well, I saw it the night before we were previously going to record.
Yeah.
So that's been, what's that, about a week ago? Was the last time I saw it. And since then, I've watched 2 and 3 as well.
Oh, nice.
I've seen this movie... I reckon I've seen this movie over 100 times in my life. And what am I now, 38? And probably twice a year on general rotation, I would say. Because
that's pretty fair.
Because it's one of the only movies ever made, guys, that I can watch again and again and again times, however many times I've seen it, and I get the same experience. And that is just so unique. And there are probably a small handful of movies in existence that meet this criteria as well, but Back to the Future is just something else for me, and that's obviously why you guys got me here today, you know.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, well, I think we kind of, when you mentioned that, it became kind of clear that we were among friends.
So you've been meaning to do it for a while.
Well, it's always like we talk about those kind of movies, the ones that we just know that we absolutely love, and we will always get around to doing at some point or another. But we always wanted to kind of. Like, we've been putting off so many of our favourite movies because we keep saying, no, like, we'll save it for a little bit. We'll save it for something really, like, special, or, like, get someone special on, or save it for, like, some kind of milestone.
Can you guys reveal any of your favourite movies of all time just for curiosity's sake, or do you keep this
we
secret?
Did one of mine last year, actually, during our Spookasodes. Top 5 films of all time. In there is A Nightmare on Elm Street 1 for me.
Yeah, because on your Casino Royale episode, you were talking about the remake and how disappointing that was.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes.
Yeah,
so Nightmare on Elm Street is, and we've done that. That was a massive one for me. Tys, any
look,
big ones that come to mind?
It's funny. I've turned around. Because I used to say for a long time, because I just had to pick something, you know, when it's just like, you kind of get you get overwhelmed by the question.
Yeah, and you're not going to give us the Godfather Shawshank Redemption answer.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And look, there's nothing wrong with either of those movies. It could quite easily be Shawshank, because it's completely, utterly rewatchable. But I used to say for a while, I used to say Pan's Labyrinth, because it really was like a movie that I just really connected to.
Yeah.
But I've come around. I've decided my new movie that is what I'm going to answer to this question now is The Untouchables.
Yeah, good one.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, good answer.
Because I feel like it's underrated enough that it might turn enough people to go, I remember, like,
what is that?
I remember hearing about that movie in the 80s, and I remember maybe watching it when I was younger, and then kind of never thought about it again. And it's a good one to go back and revisit. Because
is that the one that one of the Naked Gun films took off in its opening scene as well? Was
it takes
the 33 and a third Naked Gun 33 and a third.
Well, it's the scene, because I think I know the scene. It's the train station scene, which in itself is a rip off of a scene from Battleship Potemkin from like way back in the 40s. I want to say.
It has been forever.
Because De Palma is the world's greatest thief. Like, as a director, like everything, he's up there with Tarantino as a homage director. He just comes and takes what he likes and uses it. So he just lifted that scene straight out of an old war movie. Yeah,
amazing.
So I've never seen it though. So I've seen that scene just in isolation, but never seen it. So yeah,
that's a good choice though. I think, Tys. I think
that's
a good one.
But why haven't we done these films? Well, but we've done Nightmare.
We're saving them.
Yeah, we're saving them for a good. We'll get around to it.
Yeah,
we'll get around to it.
Absolutely.
The last time I saw Back to the Future, apart from last week, was I saw it with the MSO live.
Me too.
You saw that?
Well, of course.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
So any chance to see my favourite film in a slightly different format.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Particularly a live format like that. It was incredible.
And I've probably, it's the same as you, seen this film over 100 times, especially as a kid. I watched it like just on rotation. But seeing it live with the MSO, thank you. It was like watching it for the first time again. It literally was.
Considering the amazing composer that he is, Alan Silvestri, composed some new music, which was, okay, that was a little bit like excessive, but I understand about why it had to be done. I mean, as you guys probably know, there is no score in Back to the Future until 20 minutes into the film. So they needed to put something other than the Huey Lewis song into the first 20 minutes.
Did they play Power of Love, the MSO, or did they just play?
No, they just played it from the movie.
Okay, sure.
It was. It would have been interesting.
I would have loved that.
That
would have been great.
Orchestra rock out to.
But they did do that key thing.
I
love
it.
Of course they did,
because the movie doesn't actually do it.
Exactly.
Only 2 and 3 did.
And 2 and 3. Yeah.
So
interesting.
It's just ticking clocks in the first one. It's just like sound, like no music.
There you go.
So they had to add some.
When the credits pop up, just the.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I'm like, oh fuck it! You know you're in for a good time.
Yeah, so I saw it as well. I was probably there on the same day you were, Nick. Yeah, so it was something else.
It was a good crowd.
It was a really great way to watch a film. And what really blew me away was how accurate the orchestra's cue points were. right?
T,
Because we know the film, so we know when the actual musical cues are about to start, right? Well, they didn't miss a beat.
No.
You know what I mean? It was really... Have you ever seen a movie like that?
Professional. Like,
Tys, have you ever seen a movie live with an orchestra before?
No, I never have, actually, and it's something I really do want to experience because it sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen this aside from that experience, like in a theatre? Have we seen Back to the Future in a theatre?
Yeah.
Where have you seen it? At the Astor?
Yeah,
cool.
I've been to the trilogy screening a couple of times.
Sure.
Made it through.
What are they showing these days? Is it a print, or are they doing a 4K?
It looks 4K.
Okay.
The last few times I've seen it there, it looks as good as I've ever seen these movies look. And obviously I've seen them that many times. I know what looks good and what doesn't. I just get that buzz every time I watch it with an audience, even though you know that you're probably surrounded by fans, right, who also know when the gags are coming up and what's coming next.
Yeah, for sure.
But just the
There's
vibe...
one person in there that hasn't seen it, though.
Yeah,
you know that for a fact.
Which is great to be in their presence. You know,
absolutely.
I like to watch people watch films. That sounds kind of creepy, but...
It does. No, I totally agree.
You know, in the cinema with them, not through their window.
Yeah,
you know
that's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, all right, well, we've all obviously... Were any of us late to see this, or was it a childhood staple? Okay, cool.
Totally.
So you came around pretty late.
You guys want the first bombshell?
Oh, go for
here we
it.
go.
Yeah.
I didn't see Back to the Future until after I'd seen Back to the Future Part 2.
Oh,
interesting.
In 1989.
Oh, that kills me.
Right?
That kills me.
I mean, but saying that though, it's probably it could be the case for me too.
Really?
Well, think about it though, because I didn't see the first one in the cinemas. There's no way.
No.
I don't. I might have.
young.
Yeah, too young.
Right.
So I might have seen the second one maybe if like my brother went and I jumped along.
Yeah.
I would have been 7, so probably still not old enough to be like I want to go see Back to the Future 2. So it's probably it could be possible that I saw 2 first.
Oh, I can remember seeing 2 first, right?
Yeah.
Probably not understanding, probably finding the future in Part 2 really cool as a kid, like most kids do.
Yeah.
I still do.
Didn't understand what on earth was going on in the last act of the film, which is obviously probably one of the greatest parts of the trilogy. Maybe, like debatable, but it's definitely up there. But I definitely got one, or my folks bought me one on VHS after seeing Part 2, right?
Sure.
And then I was able to put the 2 films together. And then, as you know, Part 3 was 6 months later. It was amazing. We only had to wait 6 months for the next installment of this series that we loved. So then I was up to date. So then it was all about waiting for Part 3.
Wow.
And let me tell you, when I saw Part 3 as a 10-year-old, it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I just had the amazing experience, and it was what I wanted at the time.
Right.
Now... Whether or not it's the best of the 3 is now probably no longer the case, but they're all good. I mean, let's be honest, guys. One of the great things about the Back to the Future series is that this series that we love is still intact as we speak. And one day that may no longer be the case, because it seems that every franchise has been ruined, or arguably ruined, by 1, 2, or 3 sequels or prequels or reboots too many. But at least until Bob and Bob, Bobby Z and Bob Gale, until they pass away by the sound of things, as morbid as that sounds. Don't be surprised if, after that happens, Back to the Future remake or something gets announced, because they
I hope I am dead and gone.
Me too.
It would solve most of my problems that if they just waited till after I was shuffled
if
off.
Literally,
that would be great.
Nick's dead. We can do it now.
So what does that say? Does that say that it's such a great series and it's still intact, that people just want it left alone? I
think as my company is at the moment, as very big film fans, because we are in the climate right now is everything is being either remade, redone, or rebooted. We don't want to see the films that created our love of film ruined, or even taken the chance to be ruined. That's just for me, though.
And you've experienced a lot of other series that you feel strongly about being ruined too.
It's been it's the scales are not well for the ones that are good remakes,
Yeah.
Well, the scales are weighted to bad.
To very
remakes.
bad.
Very much so.
Very bad, yeah.
For sure.
But you've got like a series like a Ghostbusters or a Terminator or something where it doesn't matter how many other films they make. It doesn't diminish the quality of the good ones,
original,
right?
Yeah.
Now, Back to the Future could always fit into that, but there is something about the series that makes the fans and film lovers just not want to see it happen. It's almost like they just identify that it's this amazing concept from the 1980s that is so 80s and should be left there, and that the casting of Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd is lightning in a bottle, no pun intended. But, it's just... I just don't think that people can think that you can recast those characters or do it without them. But Christopher Lloyd is now, what is he, 80-something?
Yeah, man.
Michael J. Fox is obviously not, he's not well enough, which is sad as well,
absolutely.
I just don't think that they can touch this series, but it just seems that most people want it to be left alone. And it is, I don't know if you guys are nervous about Toy Story 4, but it is one of the movie series that is actually still intact, like I think Toy Story is personally as well. So,
even you, Tys, have said that it's one of your favourite trilogies.
It's a
the Toy Story trilogy.
Yeah,
I think there's something tidy, and we talked about this a little bit. There's something tidy about a trilogy, and one that is as tightly written as this, because really you can enjoy them individually, but I think they work best as a three. Like, I think the first movie is still the strongest of the three.
Agreed.
But there is something really wonderful about having that first movie, but then also experiencing all three together as this one tightly written, really kind of amazingly well thought out trilogy. Even if it wasn't their intention to begin with, it's pretty amazing how it all pieces together. And so you could, so if you did go and make a remake of it or try and sequelize it, I think it's because it's so of its own entity that where we don't want anything kind of leaking around that, because it won't be the fourth Back to the Future movie. It will be, we'll have our trilogy and then this other thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. We don't want to have to think about the other thing.
But people are already doing that. I mean, you've got, what do you got? The Star Wars trilogy?
Yeah.
It's now, 10 films now?
I'm happy to consider, even with Star Wars, aside from the prequels, which I don't enjoy, I think some of the lore that's in them is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Like, that's probably
passable.
Passable. That's too kind. Good. But it's that kind of stuff. I think some of the lore that they wrote in those prequels enriches the original trilogy. I think some of the stuff in this new three, like, I don't care much for the spin-off stuff. That can be its own little side things. Sure. But some of the stuff in the new thing, I think the same deal. I think it enriches some of the original trilogy. I don't think there's anything that you could do to this that would add to it. I think it just exists as it is. It might have its faults, but we don't need more history. We don't need to build upon any kind of mythos of this, which I think is only what you could do. You couldn't do anything more than try and convolute it further.
You get the impression as well that it would probably be a retake on the original Back to the Future as well. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if a Back to the Future 4 would be the first thing that they would go for, to be honest.
It would be a reboot, yeah.
You know? And then...
You're probably right.
Because you're not going to see Back to the Future 4.
But I mean, set it in the same universe.
Biff, Back to the Future story.
Prequel.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him making his fortune.
Back to the Future 3 is already like a great prequel. When you think about it.
It is.
Yeah. That's the thing about these time travel movies. You know what I mean?
That's so true.
You are right. Yeah. You are right. All right. Well, I mean, I've got a couple of things to talk about specifically, but I feel like we could just rant on a little bit. But let's draw our focus into the film, into the first film for a little bit, so that because we could end up just talking about the trilogy for hours. But let's save some of that stuff for when we do talk about 2 and 3, because I think unpacking each of these movies individually, there is so much stuff to talk about.
Oh, totally. But that's exciting, Tys, because that means there's going to be more Nick Tyson videotape episodes of Back to the Future.
There definitely will be.
Plus Adam.
I
would like Adam back.
Resident Back to the Future expert.
You know, in a heartbeat, Nick, you know that.
I want to talk about... Let's talk about some of the performances first.
Sure.
Just to get that kind of out of the way with. I think we've got some really odd performances, and then some really great performances. I'm not sure how I feel about Crispin Glover. How does everyone feel about Crispin Glover?
What do you mean you're not sure?
He has such a weird energy in this film. And... I think it suits, but what I find really funny is because I'm so familiar with it now that it just kind of... It washes over you.
First important point on that, George McFly is essentially the main... He's the main character that the story revolves around with this first film.
Yeah, 100%.
That's true.
So that's very important when you make mention of the fact that you think this is a weird performance. You know what I mean? So
it is.
He's physicalizing it in a way that if you sit back and actually look at, not as a first-time viewing, because that's impossible now for us, but if you just actually take it on face value and look at even just his physical performance, it's so strange.
He's weird. He's pulling off almost like a lanky thing, but kind of...
His delivery could be called bad. If in another... I think somebody who, without knowing how well it all works together, if you wanted to say... You could walk and say, yeah, but what he's doing is not great, but it suits the material so well, so you let him get away with it. But every now and then when he does his little
hey, you
get your damn hands off her.
It's so strange, and it's a person that doesn't exist in real life.
Yeah,
like I'm 100%.
Why do you keep following me around?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do? Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
It is
yeah,
bizarre.
totally. Yeah, he is.
But knowing Crispin Glover and seeing him, because I've seen him in other films as well, that is him.
It makes so much more sense when you've seen other Crispin Glover performances.
You know, especially Charlie's Angels.
While
Like,
he's sniffing
I'm
hair.
pretty sure that is him.
That's George McFly.
Nothing to do with the character at all. That is him.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think the question is he acting like himself, or like, you know, how much of the George McFly character is he, you know, embodying here?
Well, I think they kind of let him have a bit of free reign, to be honest. I think they said, look, we want this guy to be essentially not likable. I mean, to a degree, the whole thing is
a loser.
He's got to be a loser, but he's got to be
true.
A loser in the way that I don't think we're meant to fully sympathise with him. I think we're meant to be on Marty's side, where he looks at him and thinks, "Fuck, my dad's an idiot."
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Yeah, and so so by seeing what Crispin Glover can do, they've just kind of gone, "Go for it, buddy."
Which is kind of the premise of Back to the Future. Not looking at time travel, not looking at the characters and things like that. It literally was, would I get along with my father if I met him in high school?
Yeah.
Right?
That's the whole origin.
That was the origin, yeah.
Yep.
And he's just weird. Like, you see that in Marty as well. You're like, oh, wow. When he's getting kicked in the ass through the halls because he's got a kick me sign on his back. Like, he was that loser.
Yeah. Look, I think the message in this film, when you just take this first one by itself, is it's essentially... It's actually quite questionable. It's a very 80s movie in the sense that it's designed to sort of have a character whose outlook looks very grim. His family is in, you know, tatters. Like, you know, his mum's an alcoholic. His dad's a loser who's working for Biff, which is hilarious, you know, once you know the full story of it.
Yeah.
His brother's working at a fast food restaurant. His sister's a loser who can't get dates by the sound of things as well.
Yeah. He's got an uncle in jail.
And Jailbird Joey, that's it. Yeah. And it seems like it's all building to this 80s movie ending in which Marty has successfully taken charge of his life and changed it all in the past. And he comes back and it's like the American dream. It's just like this fantastic ending where, you know, everything is turned around and his life suddenly looks better.
Oh, 100%.
And it appears to be financially driven as well. You know what I mean?
Man, like, Reagan's America. This is
totally.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
right? So George McFly had to sort of, because when George McFly turns up at the end of the film, right, doesn't it look like Crispin Glover is a little bit uncomfortable?
Oh, yeah, right.
Because he is. Because he was.
He was.
He had some really strong feelings about the way that the message that the movie was conveying at the end, right? And when you actually know this about how Crispin Glover feels, and then the fact that he doesn't turn up for the sequels, like, you know, like, and what he was asking for to appear in them as well.
Yeah.
It all starts to make sense. And ultimately, what they just tried to, with the George McFly character, they've tried to create this, like, ultimate loser of a dad.
Yeah.
To the point where we want Marty to, you know, make him into a hero by the end of the film, and we want that time that he punches Biff to be like the applause moment of the movie, which it is.
Yeah, totally.
But that punch is one of the great scenes in this film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
In a film filled with great scenes, of course. But
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I can see exactly what you're saying, but they really just tried to create this, like, you know, ultimate loser of a man.
Yeah.
And Crispin Glover really just embodies that perfectly.
So it's kind of funny then. That are we saying that, like, so? Because I made a note early that it's strange that Marty's so intent on fixing, well, not fixing, but saving his kind of shitty life. Like, he, you know, he, like, obviously his reasonings for going back are very different, but he's so adamant about getting his mum and dad together. Obviously it means that wouldn't be born, but it's a weird kind of thing because he's fighting so hard for a life that isn't really good. Like, as far as he knows, the best he can do is to just be alive again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and he's putting in so much effort just to get back to a life he doesn't really like anyway, which I find really kind of interesting. It doesn't quite, and then obviously when it all goes the way it goes, and it's an implied happiness. Yeah, I guess if we want to, it's 80s happiness.
80s happiness.
It's a strange kind of it's a strange drive for a protagonist because it's not. They don't paint his family as being someone that it's a great life that he's having. Yeah, he's kind of stuck in this humdrum life, and he's happy to have that back. Yeah. And
I think the concentration is on the survival part of it, though. Like, if he doesn't do this, he won't be alive anymore. But yes, I think that is very subtle No, it's not, because it's not really said. Nothing's really talked about. Oh, you are going to go back to this. He doesn't really have that kind of inner monologue where he goes, I'm going to go back to this shitty life now. Do you know what I mean? So
we know it because we've seen the movie so many times, so we know what he's fighting for.
Mm.
But for people who haven't seen it before, his motivations are kind of interesting. They're different because... Yeah, he doesn't really have a happy ending to return to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll touch upon it more, guys, but I mean, the screenplay to this movie is like something of beauty, isn't it?
It is. It is tight as a drum.
It is one of the tightest screenplays in existence, to the point in which it was used in some film classes as well as being...
It should be, absolutely.
The whole setup and payoff scenarios that this film employs. You know, like it's
there's barely a line of dialogue that doesn't receive some kind of callback or reference
shot.
later, or shot,
or information in the frame, as well. Like people who have seen this movie 100 times, Nick as well, like they know. Do you still find new information every time you watch the movie? Or
I look for little things, but it's been that many times. Like it's funny when I went to work the other day and someone said, "What's the next film on the podcast?" And I said, "Back to the Future," and they said, "Oh, I love that little bit with Twin Pine being Lone Pine's Mall," and that I saw that like when I was 15, like on the 50th.
It's old news.
It's old news to me, but it's great that they're seeing it. Things like that. But I do look for those little things. But on going on what you were saying, there's no dead scene. There's no scene that cannot be that you can. Oh, we could kind of not. I can fast forward this scene. Yeah, I can go get a drink during this scene. That doesn't exist in this film.
No, and the deleted scenes that do exist for this film as well, they're all very good deletions.
Oh, I love them. Yeah,
they're great. The great thing about the home video formats is that you can watch them, and see what they would have done, but you can also see why they were taken out. And none of them really added anything. That's what I mean. The movie's so tight.
No,
for a nearly 2-hour movie, I really can't believe how quick it moves. I find myself caught off guard every time we get to the dance.
Yeah, because he spends a week in 1955, but you get to the dance pretty quickly, really.
We know the dance as the finale, basically. It's kind of in our heads as the finale, and we're there within probably an hour. And you look at your clock and you go, oh my God, we're already at the dance. Like, this movie just flies by. Yeah. And from the time to getting to the dance to the end of the film, we get kind of two endings, essentially. We get the ending to the B story, I guess, and then the A story, which is the return back to 1985. But they just feel, because we get there so quick, and in our heads we feel like that's the finale of the film, it feels like the pacing of it is so well done. Whereas in worse movies, if you get to your finale too early, it feels like we're dragging on way too much. But for some reason it hits it at the perfect mark where it catches you by surprise, and you go, oh cool, we're already at the dance, and then before you know it, it's over. And you're just like, that is the quickest hour and 52 minutes or whatever it is that I have ever experienced.
And let me ask you this, guys. You're talking about scenes like that there's no dead weight in this film, essentially. Yeah. What do you guys think, then, of I think it's an amazing scene, but the only time that the movie actually stops for like 5 minutes is the Johnny B. Good scene.
Oh, yeah.
There's no actual point to it, but how good is it? And how it feels so like there is a point to it. Like it feels like the tension has just been relieved. You've just gone through the drama of him nearly disappearing, and then George steps up, and he comes back in that amazing scene where he just stands up all of a sudden again after he's been disappearing and fainting,
holding the head.
Yeah. But the Johnny B. Good scene is just 5 minutes of celebration.
Yeah.
But boy, do you need it at that stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And also, not that they would have known, but that scene in the sequel...
Oh, here we go.
Totally, amazingly different. Him being in the rafters during that Johnny B.
It's like it presented them an incredible opportunity, because they went, oh, hey, we've got this whole scene where nothing happens.
Exactly.
We can do so much behind the scenes of that. So they were
so
they were gifted that they actually left that in the film.
Totally.
I think.
Yeah. But I love that scene.
Yeah.
I love it too. I think, and you're right. It's just that, like, it's a cheap gag with the it's Marvin Berry.
Yeah. I still love that.
Yeah,
gag.
It is great, but it's cheap, and you just kind of go, all right, guys, it's fun. But you're right. It's really fun. But I think it's a good character moment, because he gets to rock out. He gets to do what he wants to do. He gets his moment fronting a rock band. He gets to do what he always wanted to do, which I think you spend so much time with the really important shit in this movie, you forget that he just wants to be a kid in a band. And so he gets that with some really good musos. He gets to kind of play a tune that he loves, that he can pretend it's a bit like Yesterday. He gets to pretend that he wrote, Johnny Be Good. And it's a great, it's a celebration for everybody, but it's a really nice consolidation of his character.
I do love the way that he's. I mean, in typical Marty McFly style, he is late to nearly everything. But I do love the way that because he did that, he is nearly late to the whole clock tower.
No, right.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, right?
Exactly.
Like as if you wouldn't go. No, I really can't go. I'll see you later. You know, you would stick around.
Yeah, it's so funny.
It's so funny.
It's typical Marty. He's just always going to be late. That's what he does.
You have to have a hats off though, going into like the backstory of Michael J. Fox and his film schedule at that time, back to back with like he's literally getting through. But he's still giving a fucking rad ass performance. Like he's not cashing it in or anything like that.
Well, he says he spent because he was shooting Family Ties while shooting this as well. He's doing Family Ties during the day, this in the evening, and then a couple of hours sleep, 3 hours or something crazy. And he doesn't remember a lot of the experience of working on this movie because he was in such a zombie haze, in his words. But I mean, it's an extraordinary performance. I mean, the fact. Well, first of all, I mean, are we going to touch upon the fact that he wasn't the original Marty McFly? Are we going to?
I mean, it's a well-versed story. We all know it.
Okay. Well, let me just ask to get straight to the meat there.
Yeah.
Is this? I don't think that there's been many other circumstances in the world of motion pictures, guys, in which a film or a major studio film has shot 6 weeks with an actor and then decided,
no, this isn't the right.
He's not the right guy. Yeah. Like and if this has happened on other films over time as well, it hasn't come out to the point where it's been massive news and which has been linked back to the Future or something, in the sense that like this hasn't been done since, or
probably not under good circumstances. But didn't it last year was what was the Kevin Spacey,
all the money in the world,
Christopher Plummer.
There you go. So they reshot, but it wasn't. His scenes weren't. He wasn't the crux of the film. He was.
The movie was well and truly done.
It was finished.
It was finished, and
the film.
It just hadn't released
so
it yet.
Up until last year, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a little bit different though, isn't it? Because, like you said, the film was completed.
Yeah,
Back to the Future.
This was different. This was the director taking a different take. They were like, "This isn't really working."
There was a similar circumstance, but they didn't film with the Lord of the Rings movies. They did a stack of rehearsals and screen tests with Stuart Townsend as Aragorn.
That's correct.
And fired him a couple of days before shooting began and said, "Look, it's not working out. You're not the right fit for the character."
You hear lots of stories about people at the 11th hour being replaced and stuff. But in regards to 6 weeks of production, because you think about it, that's got to be close to like half the shooting of this film. So half of the movie is in the can, and they decide to change the main actor.
Pre-production as well, so costuming. They've made him like looking on what Eric Stoltz would look like in those costumes.
Yeah,
it's going off that.
I feel bad for him because they clearly never felt like Eric Stoltz was the right guy anyway, and so I feel like that niggling thing in the back of their mind the whole time when they would have been like,
we want Michael J.
Oh, but we really want Michael J. And so you're kind of like, I think when that opportunity comes up, and if you're watching the dailies and you're like, it's just not working. I actually really respect the decision, and I'm glad that it seems like everyone's on pretty good terms with it. Like Eric Stoltz isn't like bagging and ragging out their names or anything.
Of how
he probably got some decent money from it, and they parted ways. And I think I might be making this up, but I feel like he didn't even really feel like he was doing great work. Is that something I've read somewhere?
I don't think that's he's never been asked that question.
Okay, sure.
But I mean, I don't think that Back to the Future would be a franchise with sequels, and I think that Back to the Future would be a very, very. It'd be not a forgotten film, but it just would be this film from the mid '80s that, like, that was a bit of fun.
Sure.
I just don't think. I think Michael J. Fox and his performance here is one of the keys as to why
he is endlessly charming. Like, it is just, it goes without saying. Like it is a superstar performance. Like, it is the kind of performance that you look at and you're just like, you deserve all of the praise that you're going to get.
He's got some comedic timing, and apparently Eric Stoltz, he's not that way inclined.
That's not his.
So the
style.
movie, you can if you picture about what it would sort of turn into, it's very, very different and wouldn't have the same legacy.
It's like a serious tone.
Well, I mean, but there were movies in that time because the 80s, obviously, that kind of sci-fi adventure teen movie, we were ripe for it. You know what I mean? So if you watch something like maybe like Weird Science. And so those guys aren't inherently comedians. They just have that kind of that John Hughesy kind of energy, which Eric Stoltz definitely has, I think, as well. So I can kind of see what the movie would have been with it. Maybe like a My Science Project. Has anyone seen My Science Project?
I know My Science Project.
Maybe something like that, where it's just kind of it's fondly remembered as a bit of a time capsule of the 80s, and it's but I think Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. I think maybe even more so, a little bit Christopher Lloyd, because I think he's just so fucking good.
He's the bomb.
Really?
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd. I mean, the chemistry that he has, I'd love to know what the chemistry in him and Eric Stoltz would have been like, but the chemistry that Lloyd has with Fox is on another level. You know what I mean? Like these two as a duo, you know what I mean? Like they're just the perfect movie duo.
Amazing.
It's really amazing that it is never creepy either. Like,
the whole backstory.
If you think about like why are they together? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like, and the longer you think about it, I don't linger on it too long because I don't want to ruin my Back to the Future trilogy.
Yeah. Bob Gale came out around the 2015 celebrations for this film and had a few words to say because he's obviously got people asking him because people have broken down this film in such detail that they want to get some of the unanswered things from the past. You know what I mean? So there is some responses to like what happened, but really it doesn't give you all the answers. You know what I mean? Essentially, it's just like
you're better off not knowing.
The doc needed like someone to do some odd jobs for him, and because of Marty's family and his past, he's a bit of an outcast, doesn't spend a lot of time with them.
Right.
So he's sort of got a bit of a fatherly figure in someone like the Doc and his crazy ways. But again, it's not just like a complete black and white, this is what happened, this is how they became friends. Yeah. You know, and I think that ambiguity is some great stuff as well.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like it's strange when you try and decode it. You know, but it's good too. You know, a little bit of ambiguity is a good thing.
Yeah. I also love how quickly, like, I mean, it's obviously an acting performance, but how quickly they build the same chemistry when Doc is 30 years younger. He rolls up and he's never met this kid before, and within a day you can see that they were just destined to be best friends. Like that's the kind of the energy they have with each other, and I think that's really sweet.
And even like it brings you like it's quite heart-wrenching at the end when he hugs him and says it's going to be really hard not to talk to anyone about this for the next 30 years. You know, I think it's 30 years. But it's such a good pairing, like one of the all-time great pairings.
There are multiple moments in this film where I get like choked up with emotion, because
can you? I'm just curious about what they are.
Because I've got two different things that make me choke up. We've talked about this before. I like Dumb Courage, and I like victory in the face of defeat, like clutching victory from the jaws of defeat gets me choked up. So pretty much the entirety of the final sequence at the clock tower, I am bubbling.
Okay. Can I just say just quickly? Sorry, the clock tower sequence in Back to the Future is my favorite scene in the history of film. Favorite movie, debatable scene. I get it, right? But the clock tower scene—that's
a massive statement.
The way that it's shot, the energy. We haven't touched upon it yet, but the DeLorean is a big feature of that scene, and like we're going to touch on that surely. But that sequence and the energy and Alan Silvestri's music and the swelling and the the whole it's a once off. You know, if you don't do it,
this year stuff like
it has an amazing ability to make me think that I have misled my memory is misleading me. That is how good that scene is. Is that I watch it and towards the end when the DeLorean won't start, that last bit, in my head, I'm like, hang on, no, something else must happen. Something else has to happen. Like maybe, hang on, does he miss it this time? And I start manufacturing things because it is so good. Like the way it is structured gets me, even someone who is completely familiar with it, doubt my own knowledge of it because it's perfectly put together.
That's a sign of an exceptional movie. Like like one that still has that ability after like so many reviewings. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course,
absolutely. Like, it's on another level.
Yeah, and that's I mean that is very hard to do. There are very few movies that can do that.
So that scene ends.
A lot of the when Earth Angel is playing. There's something about Earth Angel gets me. When it's when he's that weird spring back up he does when he's fading away and then they kiss and he just springs back up. Like
because it's Earth Angel into Alan Silvestri.
That's what
was just so good at the
just
concert.
What I was about to say, Nick. It was just it's such a merging of the song and the score. And when that was done live at the
that was insane.
That was something else.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. So
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
It really was like watching it for the first time, and I've seen this thing multiple times because I went in at him thinking like I was sitting up like, okay, well this. How could it be? How different, or is it, is this going to really be? I was doubting the experience. Blown away straight away, like a complete 180, and I was like, no, if I could see, because the other thing that I've seen was the MSO to John Williams, which I've actually written to the MSO and asked, are you going to do that again? Can I see that again at some point? So they did everything from E.T. to Jaws to Star Wars to Superman to
Jurassic
Harry
Park.
Potter
Really?
to Jurassic Park.
How did I not know about the Superman one?
Oh my God. Like, no. This
Oh, it
was
was
a
one night.
This was a
Okay,
one night.
sure.
Yeah. So they touched on all the themes and it was just an amazing experience. So yeah, so watching the film while they're playing is amazing. Like it was so good. Yeah.
No, I was curious
Hands
about these
down.
choke out moments because
And I think
totally.
there's movies like this where I'm just watching it and it's amplified by the fact that I just love the fact that movies exist. Like this is one of those movies that just you sit down and you're just like, man, I love this stuff. Like it brings me so much joy. And thank God, like for movies like this, because what else would I do with my time, man?
Exactly.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Totally.
I just remembered No, it's gone. Damn
it's
it.
gone.
Keep going.
Moving on. Well done. All right. Well, what else have we got? Can we talk about? Let's talk about Zemeckis for a bit. I think maybe
Bobby Z.
Yeah. I think it's like. I don't love Robert Zemeckis as a director. This is
neither do I.
clearly, I think, his best work.
Is he the most Americana actor of Hollywood? You know what I mean? Like he's like a lot of his films are very like even the Back to the Future films have it through it. Like is in like it's just very
because it ends on a western. Like how American.
He clearly loves like that image of America. Like the way he's painted the 50s. It's so straight out of a Home and Garden magazine.
It's so fresh.
Small town.
You know, they did the 80s and it was all dirty as hell.
Yeah.
I forgot, rewatching this, I forgot how fucked up that Hill Valley Center thing. When he gets back and he sees the nameless bum, which they kind of think is Red, but not really.
Red. Well, his name's Red.
His name is Red?
Yeah, which is weird because...
I thought it was just I thought it was an ad-lib.
No, it's Red.
Oh, it is Red? Okay.
Well, I mean, I think maybe Michael J. Fox actually did ad-lib it, but it is his name.
It was his name? Okay.
Yeah.
So you see Red and he says, oh, Red, and there is just crap everywhere over that front thing, and I forgot how dirty it is. But the 50s scene is so pristine and clean and amazing.
So he's clearly driven by a certain nostalgia as well. Like, so he's kind of, I feel like in 1984, he's thinking of his current state, the kind of the way that we think about our current, and how we romanticize the 80s. He's romanticizing the 50s, and so he's got this real strong nostalgic view of the classic Americana kind of lifestyle.
Yep.
And I think because there's no. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like he's not even reflecting on the negative aspects of the 50s in this. No. He's painting it as pretty much like this is the ideal time. Is he?
Maybe.
Is there anything in there? Is there any kind of like, like
we would
social commentary on the state of the 50s? Like, I'm trying to think of an example. That's like, let's say something like Grease, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Grease, made in the 70s, set in the 50s.
Yep.
Very savvy in its representation of like teenage sexuality and stuff.
Yeah.
And so even though we have this view of the 50s as being this, gee, shucks time, they presented it in that way, but then they were able to undercut it with saying, oh, no, it's actually not like that. That's your rose-colored glasses of the 50s.
Yeah, sure.
There's nothing like that in this.
He likes the era, doesn't he? You guys have seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit? As well?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Nick is
amazing.
Yeah, it's a great film.
I wanted to. It's the one thing that I kept going, hey, Tys, when can we do Who Framed Roger? He's like, oh, not yet, Nick.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so maybe he does
40s, yeah.
But
40s?
that is 40s.
Is it
40s?
Yeah. So,
back to back, I know.
You know, I mean, Back to the Future gave Zemeckis as well the opportunity to essentially then decide what he was going to do for the rest of his career, didn't it? You know, like he had so much trouble getting this film up and about, and then he did Romance in the Stone, which got him the opportunity to do this film. And when we speak back,
I do like Zemeckis. Sorry, keep going.
That's all right. When we speak,
it's been rough lately for Zemeckis.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
Totally. We haven't got to the later Zemeckis, but
no.
Romance in the Stone essentially gave him the opportunity to make this movie, didn't it? So
which is like. Which is a great movie in itself.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that people did not want to make this movie. I can't imagine. I've never read the screenplay, but I can't imagine it would not read effectively. Like,
no, it reads effectively.
I would have. Yeah,
really
that's
does.
what I mean. It blows my mind. I mean,
went through a lot of drafts.
Well, of course, because it has to, because it's so convoluted and it's got so many things going on that you couldn't. There's no way you could nail that in one go. Like, it's just impossible.
But you mean the fact that all the studios that turned it down, like the way that it sort of fell into this uncomfortable middle ground for them, where it was too sweet for the studios that wanted to make all these sex comedies like Meatballs and Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's style films, and then Disney were the only one that showed interest, but they didn't want to make a film that had incest. A whole mother-son relationship, which is obviously a big talking point of this film. But just on that, just quickly, guys, would you agree, though, that the film just rides the wave so perfectly? And Leah Thompson herself sums it up when she talks about the film, about the fact that it's just sweet. It's not creepy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a creepy concept when you try and analyze it. Yeah. But the way that it's done in the movie, it doesn't go into any uncomfortable stuff. Even the kiss. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
the kiss is actually pretty effective because
it's
immediately,
straight up. If you didn't have that last line that she says,
it explains everything.
It would be weird.
Yeah.
And I think it would be weird.
Yeah.
You know,
I think if you look at it from a way that it's like her as a 16 or 17-year-old in 55, is immediately drawn to Marty because it's her son. When you are 16 or 17, whatever age they are in that, and you don't understand why you have this immediate connection to this person, you only have one option, and that is to believe that you are attracted to them.
Right.
So do you know, because she doesn't have the mental awareness to or capacity to understand that time travel exists and it's her son, she's left with one option, and that is I must really like him physically.
Right.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's the only way that it could manifest itself for someone that age.
Not to mention all the stereotypical things as well, like the fact that he's the only guy standing up to Biff.
Oh yeah, of course, and and that's it's a combination of her probably she feels a certain amount of pride when she sees that, and she confuses that.
And he doesn't do himself any favours as well when he just does all the heroic stuff, like the amazing skateboard, creating a skateboard.
Best scene. Oh,
is that your favourite scene?
No, it can't be because of the end. But it's up there. It's definitely up there.
It's a great scene,
and especially with how they do it in number 2. I'm sorry, I keep reverting back to number 2.
Oh,
but
they do it in the
hoverboard scene of number 2, where everything everything in number 1 goes right and everything in number 2 goes wrong. Like, it's so good, so good. Because you mentioned him, I have to say it. I have to start the conversation on. I think in this rewatching is my favourite character is Biff.
Oh,
like it's hard not to. Like, I do love the duo, which I've loved forever. You know, that is Doc and Marty. But without Thomas F. Wilson, this movie, it's very hard to, because he's such a spot on villain.
What happened to this guy?
I don't know.
And I mean that.
And that was spot. Like,
I mean that in more than one way as well. What happened to Biff? Like, to turn him into. I mean, part 2 explores it a little bit. I mean, again, we're not going to get into that time. But I'm saying it explores a little bit. Like, he lives with his grandma and all that rubbish, right? But Thomas F. Wilson himself, like,
I know what happened.
What happened?
Because he's really diverse as well. Like, from 1 to 2 to 3.
He's so great an actor that it wasn't until I was a teenager that I realised it was him in number 3.
In number 3,
I thought it was somebody else.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. He disappears into those roles.
Yeah, he's so good. So he's your favourite character, Nick?
I think in this watching, I'll probably change when I watch it again. But because the other main love, which is a character which, if you're going to talk about a choked up part, the part that I got choked up at when I first saw it is the character of the DeLorean. Because the DeLorean, to me, is the part of the character. We grow to love it. She gets stolen at one point by older Biff in number 2. And then in number 3, when she gets smashed to smithereens, that's when I was like, no, what are you doing? No!
We have, you're right.
I lost it.
They they do personify it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the way it's kind of like the little fire engine that could, like, it's the way it doesn't turn on, and he's got to kind of like, come on,
please,
like this.
Work.
And then when you know the story of the actual DeLorean, you get even more respect for the time machine because they're horrible cars. But it's so funny because you guys will love this. I actually arrived to my own wedding in 2016 in a DeLorean.
Well done.
Right?
Wow.
The way that all lined up as well, because there's not that many here in Melbourne. There's a few, but actually getting access to one on the day that you need it for the time frame that you need it was one of the hardest things I could possibly organise. But the point is that the response I kind of got was people just talking about, God, these cars are awful, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So do you think I give a shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think I care any less? I said, this car is famous because of this movie.
Absolutely.
Except for, like, automobile enthusiasts who knew about the story of John DeLorean, etc., etc. But like, it became famous because of this movie, and the DeLorean, however crap it is as a vehicle, it will be a famous car with this legacy forever because of this movie, and it was immortalized with this film. You know what I mean? And
100%.
I have to ask. Sorry, did you drive it?
No,
you did drive it.
No, I didn't really want to. I tell you what,
really?
have you guys ever been in one or ever?
I have. I've actually been in. I think it's the third one that was at Universal that they used.
Oh, cool.
So I sat in the actual.
That's awesome.
There was. Yeah. Why do I feel like we've seen one together? Why don't we?
No.
No.
Have we seen one together?
Maybe we talked about it, but there was one at Supernova.
Oh, cool.
A couple of years ago, and it was like it was the it was the year that Christopher Lloyd was there.
Awesome.
That might have been 2015. It might have been the anniversary year.
They probably would have tried to tie it in.
Yeah. So I've got a random photo of me like sitting in the passenger seat of a DeLorean.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sitting in a DeLorean is like you feel like you're sitting on the road. That's how low the seats are.
Right.
Yeah. We probably, most of us have been in low cars, but the DeLorean is something else. It's I mean, and people, but on the wedding day, people were wanting to talk to me about, but they're such awful cars, and I don't care.
Give a shit.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I'd still own one. Like if someone said, "Would you like?"
Absolutely.
Oh man, I'd drive one around happily.
Are you kidding me?
Happily.
I would sit in it once a week and have dinner. Are you kidding me? My God.
Nice.
Yes, indeed.
Amazing.
Are we done with some Mechas talk? I feel like
there's so much more you can talk about there.
Well, he was. I just had a quick look. He was good right up until 2000, where it kicked off with Castaway.
Castaway is a great film.
Yeah.
Same year.
Yeah.
Because he made What Lies Beneath in between the shooting of Castaway.
Yeah, because
Tom Cruise lost weight.
And did grow a beard. Yeah.
I like both of those movies.
You like both of those movies? Okay. I wasn't.
Okay.
I don't mind Castaway, but What Lies Beneath wasn't. Okay. I think it was marketed as something different.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so shortly after that, he did Polar Express, and then he started his whole...
That's the turning point for me.
Well, that's the thing. So this is the performance capture era, where he did the 3 films. He did Polar Express, Beowulf, and Christmas Carol.
Okay.
And I'm not a fan of these films either. Polar Express is probably the best of those 3, but anyway.
I don't mind Beowulf because of the story. I like the story. And I found it was interesting to see a movie that I think it was one of the first kind of
motion capture
animated films that just went, no, it's not for kids. And I remember finding it being quite an interesting experience, seeing violence and nudity in air quotes and like adult content in like a motion captured animated environment.
And then he came back to live action with Flight with Denzel Washington,
which is fine.
It's just fine.
It's
just fine.
At the Walk.
That was pretty impressive in 3D, I must say, but that's because of the way it was shot, the way Zemeckis actually shot that. Okay. I saw that in 3D. I don't see much in 3D these days.
I saw The Walk is the Twin Tower French. Yeah,
that's it.
So I saw the doco for that.
Man on Wire,
which I didn't want to watch the movie because that doco was so good. I didn't want to ruin the actual story of it.
Am I right as well, guys, in saying that his latest didn't even make the cinemas here in Australia? Is that right?
Welcome to Marwen.
That's it.
I don't know.
Or limited anyway.
I don't think
it would have been super limited. Yeah, I think you might have been able to catch it.
And they're saying it's one of Zemeckis' biggest misses of his whole career. So.
Sure, but this is. I feel like he's far more driven by technology now than he used to be, where he used to be very story driven.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's as important to him anymore. At least Flight, he kind of went, oh no, let's try and like take it down a notch. But he's still obviously. What I find about him now is that I can't help but be cynical and think that what drew him to Flight was the ability that he'd get to direct a huge plane crash, and what drew him to The Walk was, I get to direct this amazing 3D sequence of this guy walking a tightrope.
So he did Allied as well through that, which was...
Well, see, maybe that's the only one that is...
not bad, but
it
just
I'll be
didn't...
honest.
Like I wanted it to have, it was almost there, and it was just a solid movie. Like that's it. Like didn't really.
Which is a shame because some early Zemeckis, it's definitely not just a solid movie. It's something special.
Yeah.
Well, he does such wonderful stuff in this film. I think, especially there is stuff that, as we get older and I start to kind of pay more attention to the filmmaking process, there's stuff that I just find absolutely like really, really clever that he's doing in this stuff in the background of stuff. His frame is really, really well populated.
Yeah.
He knows exactly what he wants in it. He has this uncanny ability to make you see something in the frame without drawing attention to it. Worst filmmakers do that thing like the one that I always draw that gets my attention every time. Remember in End of Days?
Yes,
Schwarzenegger.
Absolutely.
So at
Love
the
End
end
of
where
Days.
he's having a fisticuffs with Satan, right? And there's that bit where a statue falls over, and it's Peter Hyams that directs it, I think.
Exactly what you're about to
and
talk
he
about.
sits, he lingers on the sword that's poking up for about 3 seconds,
gleams.
and it gleams. And you go, oh, well, something's going to happen with that sword, right? That is the bad version of everything that is in this movie, because you don't realize that your attention is being drawn to it. It just happens naturally. Like there's the way that George exits so many of these scenes that if you were watching him the whole time, you would see him go. But he perfectly frames it that your focus is somewhere else. He saunters off behind, and then your attention goes back to where he should be, and he's gone. Yeah. It's no trick of photography or anything at all.
No.
He just knows how to direct your attention at whatever moment he wants it to be. Yeah. And he does it so well.
Well, Zemeckis is He was Spielberg's sort of protege, wasn't he? I mean, let's not forget, guys, that Steven Spielberg is one of the main reasons that this film exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I will be forever in debt with this man, even though I can be very hot and cold on Spielberg as a filmmaker.
Sure.
Because I think he's gone in a similar direction to Zemeckis.
Yep, sure.
Maybe not the technical points that you were talking about, but just he's gotten a lot more serious, hasn't he?
Yes.
But Spielberg is one of the main reasons that Back to the Future actually got made. And I think that Spielberg is another director that fits that criteria with, he's got his blocking is something else.
Yeah,
it's on another level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not all directors have this ability. You know what I mean?
No.
And it's exceptional. I think what Zemeckis does here in Back to the Future is like, it's I mean, how do you can't really fault it, can you? You know what I mean? Like
it's almost like Thomas F's acting. Like, where did what happened? Like,
how does this guy direct this?
Some steady films in his career as well, but how are they not at the peak level of Back to the Future? Like,
look,
burning out brightly.
Everyone gets one.
Everyone gets one.
Everyone gets to strike out. Or well, no, that's the wrong word. Not strike out.
Burn.
Hit a home run.
Hit a home run.
I'm really nailing these baseball metaphors tonight. Really, just
amazing.
I'm just gonna double check because I was going to praise the pacing, but I would say that is also a great editing job.
Oh, definitely.
Because the way it cuts to exactly what I want them to cut to in my mind is uncanny. Yeah. They have a really great ability of knowing exactly what I want to see when I want to see it, and it cuts to it almost immediately, especially in the high energy action sequences.
Yeah. Everything with the car.
Spot on. The end, the whole clock tower sequence. The
Libyan chase.
The Libyan chase, sure thing. Although I do find that one really interesting because it's much shorter when he comes back.
Is it? Yeah.
That's that movie thing where they just wrap it up quicker.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
you're right.
Which is fine.
He
But
might have done a few more laps. Before,
my thing is, when they crash, why don't they just get out? Like,
you know what?
What's going on?
You know what? Geographically, is though, Tys, the second time that you see it from Marty 2's.
Yeah.
Or sorry, we'll get into I'll get into the whole Marty 1, Marty 2 thing, but when you watch it at the end of the film as well, it's more the timing that it would really the route that they take
actually happen.
It would be the actual timing.
It's the first
time around.
It's the first time that it's
the
movie
action scene that it goes into movie action.
You're right.
Yeah. So
Adam, I had to listen to your 30th anniversary episode of Real Chat before we did this.
Oh, here we go. This is taking me back a little bit.
This episode, because that was my own fault, because I thought I was going to listen to the Back to the Future episode, and we got your kind of sum up episode.
We did we found a fourth one in there.
Yeah, and you did spend a lot of time talking about timelines, and I found this really fascinating because I get lost in time travel movie timelines. I could spend hours talking about them, so I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about the timelines that exist.
This is where Nick Tyson videotape turns nerdy.
This is when we get out the whiteboard. We draw asterisks.
We draw red lines.
String.
1955.
Red string.
1985.
Yeah. Skewed into this tangent. Yeah.
Because I think, and if you would kindly repeat for us, because you did mention something on the show. I don't know if it was something that you came up with yourself, but it was the rules of time travel for this film.
Yes. my own contribution to the world of Back to the Future during the 2015 celebration.
Sure.
Because, the trilogy got a whole resurgence from
absolutely.
non-fans. You know what I mean? Like, because it just came back into the consciousness.
Exactly. Where the rest of us said it never left.
Yeah.
Totally. Exactly.
Yeah. I created an article as part of a sort of on the Real Chat blog. So my podcast.
Great.
Sort of a companion blog. And I created a... having watched this series of films so many times over the years, I came up with my own theory as to how many timelines are actually represented in the Back to the Future trilogy, right? And for this episode, right, this special that you're talking about, I really just pulled out part 1 because once part 2 comes along...
Oh, dear Lord.
Christ almighty.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
But Back to the Future 1 can actually be digested because you've only got a couple of timelines that you actually see in the context of the film, right? Now, some people say that the Back to the Future series, there are no timelines. There's just the one constant timeline, but you can keep changing it, etc., etc.
Yeah, sure.
I don't believe that that's the case based on all the viewings that I've had, over and over again. And it actually makes some of the movie darker than a lot of people would think about.
Right.
Like the fact that when the Doc gets shot at the start of this film, he's dead. For example.
So that timeline's version of Doc...
Yep.
Yeah.
So
he's dead.
So I used to put an A next to the name of the character so that people could follow what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So let's just make it easy for people. We start in timeline 1 that started Back to the Future. You've got Marty A and Doc A, right?
Sure.
We see Doc A get shot. He is not wearing a bulletproof vest because in this timeline, Marty never existed in the past. Never told him to wear one with the letter.
Sure.
So this Doc is, R.I.P.
Right.
Doc A.
Yeah.
Right? And Marty A goes back accidentally, as we know, back to the 50s. And as soon as you go back in time in the Back to the Future series, as far as my law sort of, was able to sort of get, you create a new timeline and you can never, ever return to the timeline in which you left.
Right.
Because you are going off on a different timeline by going back in time.
100%.
Right? If you go into the future, you're leaving your same timeline. You're going into the future of that timeline. But if you're going into the past, you're automatically creating a new one because you're changing it.
So every time there is time travel backwards in these films,
you're spinning
that's
off
your pivot
changed.
point. That is where the timelines split.
Yep.
And we suddenly follow a new timeline.
We're still Marty A. We actually have Marty A with us for the entire trilogy as well, from this original 1985 from the beginning.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we see Marty B at the end of this film. As
of course
you know,
you do. Yeah.
Right? Now, the really interesting thing about this is the fact that this Marty has an entirely different background than our Marty. This Marty grew up with completely different parents and siblings, and it's actually quite scary when you actually think about this film in depth because he's now an alien in a world with a different family, and different you actually do see this Marty that grew up with this different family and everything at the end of this film. You see him briefly before he gets in the DeLorean and disappears.
Right.
And the thing is that he disappears presumably to a different 1955, and then you go all fried brain after that. You know what I mean? But the time...
Yes, that is the point that everyone's face melts. trying to figure out.
Like where that Marty goes and how he doesn't affect the timeline of what's sort of happened.
Exactly.
It can't be the same timeline anyway.
No. So it's interesting that a rich and well-to-do Marty still found himself in a situation with Doc that night experimenting with time travel.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, this Doc B as well has a completely different background to the one we saw at the start of the film as well. Like this one,
Doc B has experience.
This one knows what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So he would have been thinking. This is what I was thinking about on the last watch. He was thinking about what I'm going to do now. For 30 years, because I know that I'm going to make a time machine. So of course it's a different Doc than what we would have seen in the first who would have got shot.
But again, people don't think about it with this happy ending with the bulletproof vest that the Doc that we saw in the first half an hour of this film is actually dead, and he stays dead in timeline A.
Yeah.
Timeline A is a sad timeline.
It is. It's very, very sad timeline, and we never ever see it ever again.
Because
obviously.
technically, Marty never comes back either then.
Nope.
No.
So in that family, they lose their son.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doc mysteriously disappears.
And, let's sit on it, guys. But when we do Back to the Future 2 as well, poor Jennifer. Let me put it that way. The one that we leave on the porch.
Wow.
Right?
That one.
Oh, that's a bit full on.
Yeah. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But,
that's a bit full on.
Because the one at the end of part 3 is a different Jennifer.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
What about now? This is I'm no time travel expert. Sure. I'm just not that anyone assumes.
Neither am I, people, but
Stu Wells to me.
Exactly.
No time travel expert.
I attempted reading Stephen Hawking's Theory of Space and Time. I got a solid chunk through it, I'll be honest.
Nice.
What about the idea that... how does it affect this movie, the idea that time is essentially cyclical? Let's say that. What if, at the beginning of the movie, Marty B, for instance, part of your theory, appears at the top there. So no matter what, the occurrences that happen in this film, no matter what, they all happen the way that you've seen them happening that first time.
Yeah.
No matter what. So in the scene where Marty first travels back in time, him from the future is there the first time. It's not dependent on him already doing it. All the things that happen in 2 actually are happening while we're watching number 1 as well. We just don't see them because they're not in frame.
Right.
And stuff like that. How does that work into your theory?
It doesn't.
It doesn't really?
It doesn't really, because the other... You were talking about, I think just before we started recording today, we were talking about or was it when we started? I can't remember. Sorry.
Yeah.
Twin Pines Mall, Lone Pine Mall.
Yeah.
Like, as in, like, there are things that have already changed.
Effect. Yeah.
So the universe is different. Like, as in, like,
yeah,
you know,
you're right.
like, sorry.
It's okay.
It's done.
Hey, no, it's a good. Hey, you gave it a shot. Okay, you read a good chunk.
What
of
if
that
it's
book.
like 1 point? What if it's just the distance between 2 points, and that is, it is how it was always predetermined to be.
Which is the way that the original Terminator movie gets looked at as well, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another time travel story, of course. Yeah, that's a little bit more circular, as you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like that it was all predestined.
That no matter what, in any circumstance, it just continues, and that's always the way it's going to go.
Yeah, but Back to the Future is very different. It's very much like things can be changed, and we'll show you these changes as well. Dramatic changes.
Is this your favourite time travel film?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's not my favourite way
favourite?
time travel is represented.
Okay.
Is that Time Cop?
No, it's Looper. I think.
Looper.
Time Cop?
Yeah.
Same matter. Cannot occupy the same space.
You love Time Cop. I know you do.
I do love Time Cop. No, it's Looper. I think Looper is the best example of time travel. I think there's... Because some of the stuff that Looper does makes so much more sense to me.
See episode 40 or whatever?
Yeah, around that kind of mark.
Cool.
I think that some of the ways that it's able to demonstrate the effects of time travel, I think this, don't get me wrong, this is pretty great. Like, I do love the way it works, and as long as I don't think too hard about it.
Yeah.
I just like some of the artistic choices that Looper makes to express it.
Sure.
In this film, though, it's still very much all about servicing the movie, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't really question...
We're
going deep because we've seen this film 100 times.
And it's kind of fun. Like, let's be real.
It's a lot of fun
to talk about this shit.
People
I love
it. To discover new things or think about things that they've watched over and over in a whole new light as well. So you can understand the appeal.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, as we all know, this screenplay, you don't really question the technology in this film because it's all there just to add to the story.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And also make it really digestible for like every audience member. Like no one really questions anything.
It's not hard to, even Back to the Future 2, when they go forward, back. You know, it's quite simple.
Yeah.
It's simple to look at.
Well, part 2 even breaks part 1's rules. So they change things for the story as well.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so Doc saying it like on a blackboard, he actually does get out of black, and it makes sense even in layman's terms what's happened.
Well, on the Doc and Christopher Lloyd, just quickly, Christopher Lloyd and his delivery of exposition, it's got to be... I mean, exposition can be so hit and miss.
Yeah.
Like, as in, you know, if it's done well, we don't think about it, but we're given the information. If it's done poorly, doesn't it stand out like a sore thumb in movies?
Alan Page, Inception.
Well, I think what works so well for this is because the exposition is inherently exciting. We're talking about some really kind of like time-sensitive, and I mean, pun intended, information.
Yeah.
So it gets to be delivered in a way where it's like, and then this is going to happen, and we've got to do this, and we've got to do this, and all this kind of stuff.
And even when, like, you don't even know that it's happening. So when he meets Doc B for the first time, and he finally gets to him, okay, we've got to help you, let's do this. Oh, by the way, who have you talked to today? You know, who goes to that as their first thinking? Like, the fact that the Doc is that on it and thinking about these things.
Well, it's clever to have a character that smart in this because we could easily spiral out of control into just nonsense, but we have someone smart enough to keep tabs on us.
But in that photo, he says, oh, they cut off your brother's hair. And they're like, oh, you don't actually get that, but now you're going to get it. Show me that photo again of your brother. You know, you don't realise that it's actually happened already.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
It's so well done. And Chris Lloyd's delivery of it all, you just believe it.
Flawless.
And his energy. as well. Like, like the way that he just... I mean, Christopher Lloyd is like conducting the universe, isn't he? You know what I mean? Like, as in he's formulating how everything's going to work and how this is going to go and everything. And the way he just does that is just infinitely entertaining. And not just in this film as well. Like, Christopher Lloyd's delivery in a lot of his performances, you can pretty much... draw a line with that as well. Definitely.
So good.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest... I don't think I've really watched a whole heap of Christopher Lloyd stuff, to be honest.
Really?
I was...
Camp Nowhere? I don't think I've seen
Nowhere?
that. Is that what it's called?
Dennis the Menace?
Dennis the Menace? No, he was actually really funny in that.
I know. Adam's Family?
Adam's Family?
He's great in those.
Suburban Commando?
Good. Oh, jeez.
I do love
The
Suburban
Undertaker.
Commando.
Oh, my God.
And Hogan, of course.
And Hogan, of course. But
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I haven't seen that in years.
You forget that Lloyd is in that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's the father, isn't he?
Yeah. It's hilarious. Yeah.
That's it. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else we want to say before we wrap it up? I feel like, we could obviously continue this conversation for many more hours. But is there anything burning our tongues that we want to get out before we move on?
I don't know. Again, this film, it's unlimited with the little. You could pick out like a scene or even a shot in this film, and you could spend time digesting it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You're gonna have to cut it off at some point.
Yeah. Huey Lewis in the news.
Yeah,
everyone loves Huey Lewis in the news.
I love Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
I really am a huge fan, but he cannot be understated how effective that when it kicks in that beginning. It is
at the start when he grabs the cop car.
It is
how good is that
burst of energy that just sells this movie. It puts you on exactly the right footing for this film.
Interesting thing with The Power of Love is the fact that like that song was written for the film, obviously, but the film it might there's a couple of romantic elements to this film, mainly Marty's parents. A much lesser degree, Marty and Jennifer, which is really just a side thing, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Power of Love is such a popular song and so famous for this film, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the film. No. Back in Time does.
Yeah. Back in Time makes more sense to be the one that he grabs when he gets the cop car.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this movie isn't about like love winning the day. The two of them, like, it's not like they were destined to be together and love found a way. Like, if they had just gotten together the way they normally did, they would be miserable.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually really, it's funny that way.
It's
like,
funny,
he has to actually completely change his personality for them to be happy. And so it's got nothing to do with love at all. It's not like this fabled romance.
Which is such an 80s thing to do, don't you think?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
What,
definitely.
someone completely changing their personality?
No, so the fact that it's got nothing to do with the film, like...
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. It's either that or songs that are way too specifically about this film. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, like Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly.
Which made so much money, that song, my God.
Yes. It did indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Well, I think we should move on, gentlemen. We're going to have, obviously, many more discussions. We've got 2 and 3 to come.
Oh, we do.
I'm very excited. 2 will no doubt be a head-scratcher as we try and piece together everything that we can.
And it's a little... Look, I'm going to say it. It's just a smidge my favourite. Just a hair.
Yep.
Like, it's just a bit above 1 for me.
Yeah.
But that's only because of the end, like how it throws back to the first.
Deserves a lot more than the 61% it gets on Rotten Tomatoes
61.
or something. That makes it fresh by 1%. Turn it up.
Yeah.
I think,
wow.
Obviously we'll get to it, but I think a big part of that movie's problem is that if you're not willing to recover from the pretty average first 20 to 25 minutes... If you can't get past that, which I think a lot of those people can, and appreciate that from Biff future or Biff present to the end, it's pretty great and on par. I think the future section's pretty rough.
It is, but it's full of so many great 80s gags that it essentially rides the wave.
Of course it does. But I can understand why critics, because if you wanted to be so inclined, that could put you on bad footing for the rest of the film, I think. And I actually think number 3 has a similar problem. Before he gets to the West, I think it's some of the worst stuff in the trilogy.
It's a little bit of an uphill. Yeah, I will agree with that.
There's even some really strange dialogue choices, and writing and directional choices. But we'll get to that.
To hearing about this.
But the stuff in the West is fucking amazing. Like it's the same kind of problem. I think if you can't get past those initial kind of chugs along of the car before it really kicks in and hits the gas, I can see why. I don't feel that way. It's fine. I don't love the first couple of bits of them, but the way they recover is exceptionally strong.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
Look forward to unpacking that one, Tys.
yeah, some good chats in there. Good chats.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Well, why don't we move on to our next segment? Nick and Adam, you can have a sing of this if you like and see how you go, but it's called What Did You Watch This Week? How'd you go? Did you catch
Adam has left the building.
I was going to join in, but I realised, hang on a sec, what are they actually
Which one
singing?
is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Which one is it? Yeah.
So as the guest, Adam, I think you can go first, man. We just whatever you just happened to watch this week.
Anything?
Well, as we record this, everybody, we've got the Academy Awards coming up next Monday, isn't it? Do you guys watch that every year? Do you?
Tyson and I actually take the day off work to watch it.
Really? Serious?
Absolutely.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It is. I don't miss it.
Well, for me, it's my. I don't watch AFL. I'm not a big sports.
It's
fan.
like your sport.
This is my World Series. This is my grand final.
You put bets down.
No, I don't put bets down. I just make sure that I have the
definitely
day off. Normally, I wait until the evening to watch it, so I'll go to work and then watch it in the evening. But not this year. This year, I'm going to stream it live.
Yeah. So every year, I do try and get through most of the main movies that are nominated as part of the Oscars. I'm nowhere near it. I've seen like 2 of them. It's poor. You know what I mean? I'm going to hopefully watch a few over the next few days. That's sort of the plan.
Yeah.
But you guys will be disappointed. I still haven't seen Black Panther, but probably not that surprised. But
that's all right.
It's okay.
That's all right.
I don't know.
I can't imagine you liking that one if you haven't liked any of the other ones.
I do know that this film pretty much has this nomination because the nomination it was going to get, which is the most popular film, didn't make it, did it? So that's why it's not there. But I did watch Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay, yeah.
And this film has quite an interesting backstory with the whole Bryan Singer thing.
It does.
It really does. But I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty good, really. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, as in, I'm a little bit older than the Queen generation, I think. It's mainly 70s, isn't it? Like, that's where Queen... Yeah, so...
Thrived.
So, but Rami Malek... Rami Malek? Yeah, he's probably going to win the Oscar, I think. He was fantastic. Yeah. Have you guys seen it, or...?
Ty says he wasn't he wasn't on board
That's probably been kind.
Didn't like it?
No, I did not like that movie.
Really? Right.
Yeah, I had real problems with that film.
And this was one of like my 2017. This is something that I was really looking forward to in 2018. Yeah. I still haven't seen it yet though. It's the next watch for me.
Yeah. The other one I watched was Star Is Born.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah. And the pause was long.
Look, middle of the road with that one. Is this Bradley Cooper's first directional?
Yeah, it is.
Correct.
I think he misses the mark on a couple. Have you guys seen it?
I have. Yeah,
he misses the mark, particularly. Wait a minute, are we full of spoilers here as well, or should we keep it low?
I think it's been long enough.
Yeah, really?
Maybe for these ones because they're back in the consciousness at the moment, so people are trying to watch them.
Exactly.
So if you can perhaps skirt around
spoilers.
I was going to go to a particular point.
I think I know which point you're going to.
He doesn't pull it off. Let me just really generalize it. There are a couple of key points that aren't pulled off. It doesn't stick the landing. And Lady Gaga does very well, I think. Obviously, none of us have seen her in anything. This is her first.
I didn't watch American Horror Story. So
my wife raved about her. She thought she's in 2 seasons, which obviously, if you're an American Horror Story fan, they're very. They do a different thing each season. So she quite liked what she did, but this was my first watching of Lady Gaga as well. I thought she was okay. I thought she passed quite well. But I believe that the movie had a lot more hype around it than it deserved, but that's just me.
Right. So which of the main Oscar films would you guys recommend I check out before next week?
I'm a little bit behind because I haven't seen anything yet that I embrace wholeheartedly.
You think it's a bit of a weak year?
I've still got a few to go, so I'm hoping that some of them will. Having said that, I quite enjoyed Green Book.
Okay, yep. I haven't seen it. So, yeah,
like much more than I thought I would.
I would say absolutely stay away from Eternity's Gate, which is Willem Dafoe, what he's nominated for Best Actor.
Okay, that one wasn't on the radar. But, stay away,
there's a reason for that. I would say out of all of them, I'd watch Vice, because that was the one I was most, even though...
Christian Bale and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd maybe watch that, especially because I've watched all of them bar Bohemian. So Bohemian is the last one that I've yet to see. Hilariously enough, it was the one I was looking forward to.
I think it's available now to rent.
It is. Yeah.
What about The Favourite? That's getting.
Oh, that's the last one. Yeah. I'd probably watch The Favourite, even though I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
because it looks the most interesting, and knowing that director, you're going to get something different.
Yeah.
Because have you seen The Lobster?
No.
Okay. So going in on The Lobster because I haven't seen his other one, which was Sacred Deer. What was that one called?
Killing of a Sacred
Deer. But yeah, The Lobster was so different and such an experience of a film that I definitely put money on The Favourites being the most enjoyable out of what's nominated.
Yeah. Have to get that
if you're
shortlist
not
down.
a Marvel fan.
Of course. Well, that's it. Well, speaking of the Oscars, our next week's episode, Nick, will be our Oscar extravaganza
Fantastic.
for 2019.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and... I'm way behind, by the way. There's no way I'm going to get to see everything. It's not going to happen.
That's all right. That's all right.
So I'll be relying on you for a lot of
That's
stuff.
right. I can come to the table with everything.
But yes, don't forget to tune into that episode next week. Nick, what did you see this week?
Well, I watched, and that's why I told our newfound friend Adam to stay away from it. I watched At Eternity's Gate, and my God, what a fucking waste of time.
That's very interesting.
I understand what they were going for. I understand that obviously this is a story of a painter, so you're going to get those longing shots of what inspired him and things like that. But at the end of it, if you aren't giving me a beginning, a middle, and an ending, it's kind of just an amalgamation of nothing
for what it's trying to be.
I wouldn't say abstract. I'd just say it's just not there. It's just they didn't try and go for abstract.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, what they did try to go for, I don't know what to make of it.
What do you think people are seeing in the performance to make it so?
I don't know. It's good, but but Thomas F is way better as Biff. I'll say that much.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, he's good. I love Willem Dafoe, but yeah, this is it's
interesting.
It's okay.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd still like to see that.
Yeah, see it.
Yeah.
See it. Because I want someone to change my mind. I'm always about that. If someone has a different aspect of a film that I'm not seeing, then tell me why. Like, I need to know why, because I feel like I'm missing something. But yeah,
nice one.
That's good. I like that.
All right, I'm just going to talk about one
what did you
thing.
see,
I'm not
Tys?
going to talk about the one I briefly teased before. So I'm going to actually talk about something else. So I'm just going to leave that hanging in the air.
Nice.
I saw, because it's just been recently added to Netflix. It was a movie from a couple of years ago called Brawl in Cell Block 99. You guys heard of this one?
I don't know that.
No.
So this is S. Craig Zala, who directed Bone Tomahawk.
Oh,
which I know
okay.
we've heard of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So this is like a serious 70s exploitation throwback prison movie.
Nice.
With Vince Vaughn, of all people, as the main character, and he is fucking great.
Yeah.
It is like one of those performances that it is completely at odds with everything you know about the actor and the performance and what you expect. It shows
that he's got some talent.
He has legit talent.
Yeah.
And
Right, yeah.
I always knew he was great in
Yeah.
comedic roles. He just kind of got a bit tired.
You didn't get
recently.
that from the Gus Van Sant Psycho remake?
Yeah, that thing's hilarious. That's what I'm talking about. I laughed my ass off. So he's really, really interesting in this. It is about a guy who, he's a very strange kind of man who has, I want to say, issues with violence, like the way he controls his own violence and the way he responds to violence around him. And he is trying to build a life for his wife. And in the course of doing so, gets kind of wrapped up in drug running and ends up in prison, basically. And what happens from there is very, very interesting. It becomes kind of like a Dante's Inferno of prison movies. He has to figure out a way to get deeper and deeper and deeper into this prison for reasons that I won't go into, which involve him having to do some pretty heinous shit.
Right.
It's quite long. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, roughly. It's very slow. It's lots of just shots of people walking. But what's really interesting about this movie is that they make Vince Vaughn, because he's playing this huge, hulking kind of figure of a man. So even the way he walks is fascinating, because not only because of the way he's performing it, but the sound design makes every one of his footsteps feel like it's like shaking the earth and stuff like that. It's really strange. But super violent, goes absolutely off the wall. There's a performance by Don Johnson.
Oh,
fucking Don
man,
Johnson!
nice.
Right? He plays the warden of this pretty disgusting prison,
right?
And he is outstanding. Vince Vaughn's awesome. I'm trying to. I want to sell it really high because I think it's definitely worth it.
Nice,
but I don't want to give away any of the bonkers shit that would make both of you go, "Oh well, I need to watch that immediately."
Okay,
so just trust me.
No, I'm in.
Trust me.
I was in with the director of Bone Tomahawk, to be honest.
Yeah. But be aware. It takes its time. Like it really lets scenes breathe. I haven't seen a movie in this long that will just let the camera sit on two actors and really just let them breathe for a while.
Sometimes you need a bit of that, don't you, Nick? Just a little bit of an elbow, a bit of a forewarning that to give it a chance.
Yeah.
Because a lot of films don't deserve the chance.
That's it.
So
let it work its magic. Because it took me about 20 minutes. I was kind of like, okay, what the fuck is this doing? What is it? Because it's actually quite odd, and it's filmed. The choices of angles for two-person dialogue it's all very strange. It's not like anything I've really seen before. Mm-hmm. He picks very odd camera placement and just kind of goes, go. And you've got one person out in this corner of the frame and one person down here having a conversation with each other, and it feels really kind of off-putting, like you feel kind of at odds with what the movie's trying to do. Once you settle into that and you just let it kind of have its way with you, it's super effective. Nice. And yeah, it gets fucking bonkers. So I really liked it. Recommend it highly.
Cool.
Golden.
Good stuff.
Brawl in Cell Block 99. Just on
I've
Netflix.
Never even heard of it before.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
So, Nicholas.
Shall we do...
We have a game.
I love this segment.
Now, where...
Do you have it up?
Excuse me?
Do you have it? Let me just say that again. Do you have the notes on your phone?
I'm just
ready.
checking.
Let me rephrase.
I was like, what kind of segment is this?
Let me rephrase. Sorry about that. That's a different podcast that I do.
Oh, that's the other one.
No, I'm kidding. That's not the other one. Not the other one at all. That's hilarious.
Oh, no, it's all right. I found it. Yeah,
okay.
I found it from 28th of November. I assume that's the last time we did it.
That's correct.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to play a game. This game is called
Grilling the Guest. And it has a song.
It does have a song.
You ready?
We're grilling the guest. Du, 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 du. That's all we got.
That's it. Look, it's a good song.
So, Adam, we're going to give you a series of basically who'd you rather style questions.
Quick fire.
Ooh. It's quick fire. We're going to give you two names, and without thinking, your first response, your first natural instinct, say one of these two names back to us. It's a who'd you rather situation. It's a death kill. Yep. What is it? No, marry, death, kill.
No, it's not marry, death, kill.
That's murder, death, kill from... What's that? Demolition Man? Is that what it is?
So there's no think time for the response.
No think time. It's got to be. It's quick fire. I even put like a little ticking time bomb thing, a sound effect underneath it. So.
It's fantastic. Okay. I love it.
Even though there's no actual like time limit to it, I just like to add the illusion.
No, but by all means, take your time.
He can edit it later and make it appear like it's shorter.
There is one on here.
Yep.
That we're going to
change.
No, we already changed it. We took it out of the last one.
Okay.
To accommodate. Oh no, second last one.
Yeah, don't do that one.
Yeah, because knowing what we have discussed previously.
Yep. Sure, we won't need it. All right, we'll skip that one.
Do you go first?
I like it. I'll go first. Are you ready? Here we go, Adam. Scorsese or Spielberg?
Spielberg.
Alien or Predator?
Alien.
Stallone or Schwarzenegger?
Schwarzenegger.
Lion King or Beauty and the Beast?
Lion King.
Judi Dench or Helen Mirren?
Helen Mirren.
Burton's Batman or Donna's Superman?
Donna's Superman.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Replicant or not a replicant?
Not a replicant.
Nice. Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire?
Gene Kelly.
He's a three-way. Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers?
Jason Voorhees.
Nice. Pacino or De Niro?
De Niro.
Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal?
Dark Crystal.
DC or Marvel?
Marvel.
And our last one, Bill Pullman or Bill Paxton?
Bill Paxton.
Hey! I like it.
And that is
that.
Grillin The Guest. Du, 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 du. Excellent. Excellent. Do we need to revisit any of those?
Good.
That was good. That was good. Solid. I think you went some ways we weren't going to think you were going to go.
I'd like to clarify a few things.
I think we really should.
Please do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the Alien versus Alien or Predator.
Did you say the way you sense my answer? Or?
Yeah, Alien, really.
I said
like
Alien. Yeah.
I like it.
I'll tell you why, because there's more than one good Alien film. That's why.
Nice.
There's only one good
Predator film. That is correct.
Yeah.
Correct answer.
I don't know.
You don't know? You like Predator 2?
I love Predator 2.
Really?
I love it. And I love Predators.
Whoa.
I don't like...
Don't say the Predator.
The Predator was really disappointing.
It was so bad.
But and those AVP movies.
That's amazing.
Movie of last year.
I mean, Schwarzenegger, of course.
Worst film of last year.
I like it.
Not a replicant.
Yeah, you're obviously talking about Decade.
Yeah.
I'm saying not a replicant.
Interesting. So do you prefer the original theatrical cut to the...
Well, there's that many different versions of Blade Runner as well.
So do you like the happy ending?
The final cut is probably the best cut of the film overall, I think. Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah,
but
I still
I'm still going to go with not enough. I like that. I like that. That was good.
Interesting.
Any others?
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your obviously the 3 great horror icons.
Yeah.
Is it just that Friday the 13th is your kind of is that your
I think the good
franchise?
I'm not really that much of a horror guy overall. I mean, you know, I don't have like, you know, the fanboy, you know, like you obviously do with like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Obviously,
So Freddy's your man.
He is.
Right. I think Jason Voorhees, just from those 3, is the character, mainly probably because of what they do with him in 6. You know, where he comes back after with the lightning strike.
Yes.
Probably, I think 6 is quite a unique, you know. It's a unique
It's
one.
a bizarre one.
It's bizarre, but it works.
But it works.
By the time you get to 6, you got to be doing some crazy shit. Like
Exactly.
that, you know?
Yeah. You can cut him up, put him in a blender. He's still going to come back.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's more Friday the 13th films that I probably enjoyed. Whereabouts Nightmare on Elm Street's probably limited to about 2 or 3 good ones.
Yeah.
I'm sure you agree Dream Warriors is one of them.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
And the original, of course.
Yeah.
Where's Craven? Yeah.
Correct. Amazing.
Bill Paxton there, Tys.
Yes.
He's one of my favourite actors of all time.
Sure thing.
He's probably not the greatest actor in the world, but in regards to the roles that he's played in some of my favourite movies, and his role as Simon, the used car salesman in True Lies, is one of the greats. It's just one of the funniest characters, working alongside Schwarzenegger in those scenes in the car, you know, like the vet gets him wet.
Yeah.
You
How
know, like,
good is he? He's such a greaseball. Like, just a grease. Like,
and he's
so good.
He's such a pussy as well.
Yeah,
like, you know, like,
exactly.
Like our little dick.
Like
it's pathetic.
like going from that and then him from in Aliens. Like, it's just so good.
Yeah.
He's such a great character.
That one was one of the easier ones, Tys.
Sure thing.
Did you say Labyrinth or Dark Crystal?
Dark Crystal.
You said Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Mainly nostalgia there as well.
Obviously.
Are they doing a new one?
They are doing a TV series.
Netflix series on its way very soon.
Very soon.
There you go.
Very exciting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap us up for episode number 92 of Nick Tys and Videotape.
Thanks for coming along, Adam.
No worries at all, guys. It's been an absolute blast. I've had a ball.
It's been awesome having you on. Why don't you tell the people one more time where they can find your show?
Yeah. Good old Real Chat. That's real with 2 E's, guys. You know, so you don't get that confused. I don't know what Real Chat, how that would pop up on Google or anything, but anyway.
It's something sexual. You know it would be.
It'd be a TED Talk or something.
It's $1.95 a minute for someone to fucking read you erotic stories. You know it would be.
Meals and Boon, baby.
Yeah, realchat.com.au. You can also find us on all the main podcast feeds. You know, your Apple iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn.
So what's the do you mind? What's tomorrow? What's your most recent episode? Are you able to tell us and give us a little?
The one that's releasing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Top Gun.
Oh, you already told us that,
I think
of course.
I told you that.
You did tell us that.
Indeed.
We also did, on the same day we recorded that, we actually did a recording on Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Interesting.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Again, not part of the top 100.
But like as a bit of a spin-off thing.
A bit of a spin-off. We've got a couple of spin-offs. See, the top 100, it's already taking us a long time to get through it. It's the journey. It's not the destination. You know what I mean?
Of course.
It doesn't matter how long it takes to get to number one.
What number are you at? On Real Chat.
We are up to 70, and we're
70?
working backwards.
Right.
So we've done 100. We've done 30 movies.
Right.
You know, so we've got a lot of good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
But we'll have to find the right film to get you guys on. Definitely, you know, we'll have to return the favour.
It won't be hard.
Awesome. Nah, this is the one thing though. Empire like to do that list pretty often. What happens if they bring out a new one and you're like, oh fuck, I've got like 40 to go?
I get asked this question. It's one of the most frequently asked questions that we get.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I have thought about it. I do think that a good 80 or 90% of the movies will be the same.
They just shuffle spots mostly.
Mainly shuffle spots. There will be the odd like switch in and out. But I've got some ideas. I haven't quite finalised it. They haven't released this list yet.
Right.
But when they do, I'm going to be curious to see it. But I think that in regards to what we do with the show, I think we'll stick with the list that we've been working on. There's no point in changing it. But in regards to bonus episodes, some of the movies that are brought in, we might be able to sort of bring them in
of
as a spin-off as well.
It's a bit of a bonus.
But just so you guys know as well, The Avengers is coming up. I don't know if you want to keep that in mind. But
well, that's for, that could be...
You guys have seen specialties with the Marvel stuff. So anyway, keep it in mind.
I own a Cap Shield.
Keep it in mind. Have a look at the list, Nick. Have a look at the list.
We'll do.
We're really good to have you on.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. And Nick, next week we did mention that we're doing our Oscar extravaganza for 2019. 2019.
That's true.
So we're going to be discussing the ceremony, having a little think about some of the movies that we haven't talked about on the show specifically yet because we were saving them for that.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
That is going to be a lot of fun.
I don't really know how this is going to go this year. I'm kind of...
Yeah, we're hostless. That's for damn sure.
And,
it's happened before. It was... Last time it happened was... I think it was 89. Was the 90s?
What did they do?
It was.
They just had presenters, so it was, and presenting this film was, the two people.
Wasn't that also the
out.
year of Snow White singing that strange medley through Disney things?
Possibly.
I feel like, and that's what opened the show. I have that feeling in my head.
Yeah.
Also, this is
forward to that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is for as long as I can remember the really most legitimately open race that we've seen in years.
Yeah,
we do say it every now and then. The basically the favourite wins, and it could happen again. It could just be the Night of Roma again.
Sure.
But I have this. It feels like the most open.
It could be
anyone's
night. It really could.
Yeah, so I'm very interested to see how it turns out.
I like the way you just said, the favourite wins.
Yeah. Maybe, who knows?
Who knows? If
I got that right, I'm clearly psychic.
We didn't film this after. We didn't record this after. No.
Yes, but do you want to let the people at home know where they can find our show one last time, Nicholas?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this special episode of Back to the Future. If you are listening...
This episode of Back to the Future. This is your one-stop shop for all Back to the Future.
For just Back to the Future, all things.
I never problem with that at all.
No, you're fine with that. But yeah, if you are listening to us, please subscribe, all of that stuff. We are on all the social media, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are on YouTube, so if you'd like to listen to us on there.
That's it,
and
go
you
for
can write us in if you do have any correspondence, which is nicktysonvideotape@gmail.com. So if you do link into any one of those, we will be putting up the subscription for, or where you can find Real Chat, Adam's podcast as well. So if you're having a hard time finding it, which I doubt it very much, but yeah, we'll be putting that all up on the social media this week, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Thanks for that, boys.
No, of course. And we're going to be running a buy request pretty soon as well. We have received a couple of requests lately, so we're going to have a new buy request segment coming up soon.
Fun.
If you would like your movie to be featured, like a movie that you suggest to be featured on the show, don't forget to email us and let us know. All right, thanks again, Adam.
No
We've loved having you on, man. It's been awesome.
It's been fun.
It has indeed. Bye, Nick.
Bye, Tys.
Bye.
Bye.